Hit the wrong button. Stream title updated. There we go. Okay, we good? We're good? You guys can still hear me? It looks... I'm still getting it on my, Yeah, sorry about that. Are we still good? I accidentally hit the end stream button by accident instead of hitting the save stream title information. My bad. But I think we're good now. If you're on PC, you wouldn't have noticed anything. If you're on mobile, it may have affected things. Alright, let's continue.
This event then goes into the ether. And from here, it was up to...
In fact, we'll back it up a few seconds.
Coordinate our...
To die for the government, let's do this.
On September 20th, 2019, we'll all meet up at the Area 51 Alien Central Tourist Attraction and coordinate our entry. If we Naruto run, we can move faster than their bullets. Let's see them aliens. This event...
Not sure if you can outrun Bullet.
And from here, it was up to the Facebook
kudos who try
to decide what would happen next.
There's a lot here to be excited about. I think this could be very positive for our society and economy.
People from all across the...
I call bullshit right there. That's Zuckerberg, and we all know Zuckerberg is a Repton alien with a human skin. He would not support anything that exposes aliens. We all know that for a fact. So I'm calling bullshit.
Flat World were receiving the invite, and they began pressing the attending button.
I think I pressed the attend button on this myself, I think, maybe. Can't remember, it's been 4 years? Yeah, 4 years.
Within just a couple of days, the event had picked up hundreds of thousands of attendees. People loved the idea so much, they began making memes about how they were going to raid the base. So many I can barely show you a fraction of them, rapid firing them out like the bullets that would soon be gunning them down. And so the event spread, and spread around the internet, eventually morphing into...
Everyone who is something is gonna raid Area 51.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
Nigel, a runner.
Null pointer, runner.
Stevens, agent.
Silo, a runner.
Freeman, 713. I am a sentinel.
Everyone's doing their part. Are you?
Yeah, I did my part by just watching the memes on the internet.
We need soldiers. We need
You know, morale boosting.
And just like that, the game was on. Ad time.
Ooh.
Here's the new campaign. You're gonna love it. To be or not to be.
Plans disappear. Dreams take over.
I live. I laugh. I nod. Nod on every device like a blank canvas. I can be here and anywhere.
I use Nord. VPN. Good stuff.
Will you break these chains?
But wherever I go, there you are.
NordVPN.com/.
You are considered Nord, of course. Perhaps think are supporting internet story. I did when I signed up.
And I know women. Tomorrow to you, my ladies. Have you heard about NordVPN? You should get access to the international Netflix catalog. Never miss another episode of The Handsome Man Show.
Really, what's your NordVPN itself? Must be very busy.
Oh, I feel so safe.
Trafficking all the internet.
Strong arms, especially with their
By hand yourself?
Threat protection.
Very impressive,
It protects me
Winston.
from
Very
malicious
impressive.
sites and downloads and trackers and intrusive ads. So think pink, think nordvpn.com/internethistorian. Woo! Because the V in VPN stands for vagina.
I think we've heard enough.
Fine. Alright, I'll do the ads you like.
A little close there,
Get Nord. You can
historian, on your allowed words for V2 or YouTube.
Other amazing prices? nordvpn.com/internethistorian. Tell him who sent ya. Ad over. Welcome to the mission brief. Let's do a bit of background on Area 51. Secret military base, first developed in 1955. This is what it looks like on Google Maps. It's approximately this big. Total area size, 51. And the volume, a big mystery. Until 1997, the government refused even
Yeah, plus points for using kilometers instead of miles or whatever unit of measurement Americans like to use.
That lawsuit was about the death of 2 men who were former employees. And how did they die? Well, not aliens, but rather toxic fumes from burning garbage. Yeah, so what they would do is burn a whole bunch of cool, high-tech refuse on the lot, let the deadly smoke blow downwind, and the staff was stuck breathing it in. A few years later, bing bing bong, cancer. Other than that, the public hasn't really been told anything. So all people can do is speculate as to what the hell is going on in there.
I think that they are keeping remnants of a UFO there.
We don't know if it's aliens. We don't know if it's time travel. We don't know if there's minions in there.
Virtual reality that seems so incredibly sexy.
But what has been
Personally, I think this is the home base for the Dark Star project. That's probably what's really going on. If you don't know about the Dark Star project, look into it.
leaked is that they do test flights on new alien craft.
Motherfucker, don't you tease me.
Hey, we just saw that scene from playing Halo 4 just yesterday. Ah.
Produce new alien tech. Breed the latest version of the newest, gayest frog. Do not get it confused with Roswell. That's over here. Area 51's over here. And the final thing that we know is that security is top notch. They have that thing locked down.
Another historian is from Australia,
anyway.
Winston.
Okay,
He is
but it's going to require
Australian.
some research. And the first thing to find out, has anyone ever tried breaking in before? Yes, several times. In fact, in January of 2019, an unnamed man broke through security barriers and drove 8 miles into the base. He got out of his car with a metal cylinder in his hands, and the military opened fire. He was shot dead at the scene. And there was this time when a film crew from the BBC was arrested for trying to get in.
This is BBC News.
This time when a vacationing family of 4 went off track. You get the idea. They're not messing around.
Put your fucking hands up. I'm not going to tell you again.
But there's one story to top them all. And we'll disguise his identity, but he is my personal hero. The month is November. The location, Las Vegas. And the protagonist, a professional limo driver. Now, he's more than a little unhinged. He decides to start harassing and sending death threats to a lawyer, whom we think was going to represent his defense for this incident. If you've ever seen this TikTok, that's our boy doing donuts and driving backwards down the Las Vegas Strip. Anyway, fast
A,
forward
impressive,
3
and
weeks.
B, I'd never
It's
seen
like
that
6
before.
in the morning, and this guy is already doing donuts at a car park near the airport. Then he decides to drive from the car park into the airport itself. Offense? No problem. He drives right through it and onto the runway. He's just
That's quite
driving
disruptive.
around, whizzing between planes, almost crashing several times before eventually parking on a ramp. At this point, he jumps out, puts on a clown mask, and storms right up to a private jet. He announces, aggressively, to the flight staff that there is a bomb in his limo. Quote, "I have a fucking bomb. I'm going to blow this place up." His plan? To commandeer this private jet and take it to Area 51. However, as sound as this plan was, the quick response by police meant that it
A
wasn't
few
really
flaws in that
working
plan,
out.
I can imagine,
So
but
he bails back to his limo, tries to make an
kudos
escape,
for
until eventually police catch
the
up with
effort.
him. At that point, he is quickly arrested. They take him in for questioning, and he starts telling them That's right.
And let me guess, there was no bomb.
To see the aliens. He also told them to refer to him as the Chosen One. And by the way, I have high security clearance.
And by the way, historian said this happened in November. November, of course, as he also knows, no, not November. Clearly, the aliens got to him, and No Not November was challenging his needs, and he needed that alien services, so to speak. Relieve himself. Up to his head a little bit.
Also, I'm involved with the mob, and someone owes me millions of dollars. Later on, the bomb defusal crew checks out the limo and determines that it's just a fire extinguisher with a bunch of wires and duct tape and some fairy lights.
Oh, that's bound to work.
He gets out, presumably on bail, and CNN reporters walk up to him and start asking him questions. No statements from me, he says, but you should talk to my lawyer. And then he proceeds to hand them the business card of the lawyer that he's been sending death threats to for the last 3 weeks.
Oh, that's one
amazing. After all
problems with that
the
plan.
judge ordered that he be sent to a mental hospital for assessment. Or so they say.
Ooh, how convenient.
Okay, so people have really died trying to do this. That means we're going to have to be a little more covert. So over at Area 51 HQ, the military can see that Facebook numbers have reached 1 million. And it doesn't take a genius to calculate that even if just 1% of them show up, that's... Wait a minute. Run those numbers. This many people. In a crowd that big, there's bound to be at least a few who'll do something stupid. In fact, the military took it so serial that they even went over the nuances of Naruto running. This is a real slide, by the way, and it required a real demonstration, of course. Now, some undercover operative then took a photo of that brief, and they uploaded it to Reddit.
They intend to use our tactics against us.
Alright, so if the military decides
Not
to
certain of that one, but sure.
Things could go pretty badly for Matthew. So Matthew goes back to his mind palace.
Think.
Let's not keep saying it's a raid. Instead, let's do a music festival. This would give Matthew an alibi and throw authorities off the scent.
I don't do it in Minecraft. That's also bound.
Let's do this.
Can't forget to add the in Minecraft.
Alien Stock 2019. The official EDM party, hosted by Matthew Roberts. Set to take place in Rachel, Nevada, a town that just so happens to neighbor Area 51. It has 50 total residents and practically no infrastructure. Perfect. Yeah, nice try, fellas, said the military. And the captains and the generals all started planning their own EDM party. With the deep state.
Nice.
3 groups in particular. Introducing Group E, the E local state police. Police have their work cut out for them because, owing to this party, they think there could be upwards of 50,000 people descending upon the little town of Rachel.
Lincoln County commissioners trying to tackle the tough task of preparing for a potential inundation of people, and Sheriff Kerry Lee has less than 30 deputies.
The county declares a state of emergency, and they allocate an extra $250,000 worth of enforcement for the weekend of the raid, as well as an extra 300 police officers and paramedics.
Some guy on Facebook decides to make this event as a joke. And now $250,000 of money is being spent on security force. Bruv. Great usage of the taxpayer dollars there. Gotta say.
That many people are going to stress the community to the point that we can't cope with it.
This is some of the most exciting stuff that I've ever gotten to work on. And
stop faking it, Zuckerberg. We all know you're a reptile in human skin, alien. You don't support this. Why do you even let this event happen, Zuckerberg? Of course, it was all a ploy. And the real alien base is in Area 53.
Hold on, Mark. Group D, the defense.
I'm gonna take out my gun and shoot somebody.
That's why Zuckerberg supported this event.
At 10 a.m. They contacted my mom, and she was like, so she texted me, she's like, the FBI's here, answer your phone. So, because I was kind of scared at this point, but...
This report from the Nevada Department of Public Safety was released last year, and it features some very interesting things. For example, they caught a group of YouTubers trying to plant a tracker on the bus that goes to and from the base.
We're gonna pull an epic prank.
Highly illegal.
Oh yes, very prank.
You may not be that surprised to hear that the military isn't actually that worried about people breaking into the base. Turns out, they have automated weapons. Not automatic weapons. Automated, whatever that is. No, instead, they think there's potential that real terrorists will, you know, do the thing, or a thing. So, counterterrorism was given a budget to sweep for chemical, biological, radiological, and explosive material. Although,
how much budget was this?
And there's just one last group getting involved as well. The corporate press.
So there's probably going to be at least $1 million in expenses being spent by the government on this.
They immediately started warning people not to raid.
Use of lethal force authorized.
Spouting contempt for the stormers.
What started as a joke Facebook event quickly turned into a phenomenon reaching
Well, it began as a joke, but
appears
now it's
the U.S.
turned
Air
into
Force is
something
taking
much
these threats
more
seriously.
serious.
Astroturfing campaigns by Late Night Haha Man number 1 through 7.
It's much more likely they'll see them tasers.
Laugh it all up. It's just a big joke.
Who say they're interested just keeps growing.
Faster than their bullets. Let's see them aliens.
And they weren't afraid to give some of the biggest, brainest takes you've ever heard.
It's not clear the 1.1 million Facebook followers who said they are going to storm Area 51 are real and not Russian bots.
You're a goddamn genius!
We'll make you take us seriously. Let the training begin.
And speaking of that, I think it's time for my workout.
And so the Raiders began training.
We train for Area 51, so let's go.
Sandwich.
They began pushing their body.
Training with sandwiches. Nice. That's training I can get behind.
Pushing their spirits. Pushing their minds. Pushing their friends and family's patience to the limit.
Who wants to come with me to kick some alien butt?
If Area 51's using water balls for defense, they stand no chance.
And that's what fitness will be like in the metaverse.
As we zero
the metaverse. The metaverse. I heard something along the lines that at the metaverse's peak usage was only like 20 people, wasn't it? And they spent literal, what was it? $2.5 billion in developing the metaverse. Some absurdly high number. Bro.
In on the day of the raid. The count is up to 2 million attendees, and that puts us on par with the world's largest standing army. So to coordinate all of these troops, we'll need a battle strategy.
Lay it on us.
From r/memes, intel was being filtered down to the troops. Groups such as the Minecraft YouTubers, the Normans, the Weebs, Facebook moms, the Kyles, the Chads, the Crackheads.
Is this a 5 o'clock free crack giveaway?
Wait, that was sort of the rise of the meme of Kyles and
okay, this thread is
wasn't it? Around this time.
They all had their role to play. So, Godzilla comes in from the east while the Australians make a distraction that allows the Minion cosplayers to breach from the south. Of course, these very
always about the money, Spider-Man.
Disguised as memes, so that they could be spread across YouTube, Reddit, and TikTok without the threat of being... Although, not everyone was as tech-savvy. Authorities managed to nab one of the main cartographers, and they pressured him into an interview on the television.
It took me a total of 5 minutes to put this image together. It was sort of like a battle strategy almost.
It was completely rooted in satire.
That was just completely rooted in satire.
And no one should raid, this is just completely a joke.
And completely just a joke.
Mission counting sheep.
Whatever you say, Jesus.
Take him out. Okay, so remember how we're not raiding anymore and it's just a music festival? Wink, 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 wink. Well, bad news.
In Minecraft.
Okay, so it sounds like you maybe are looking at changing venues. Possibly.
Possibly.
It's all up in the air. We're putting Maddie on the spot here.
There's a lot of challenges, so.
But it's 2 weeks away, so. It's kind of got to like figure it out, I guess, somewhat soon, right?
Yeah, it's all kind of falling apart. See, Matthew had organized Alien Stock with a few other people, but his main business partner was Connie West.
I didn't plan it. It planned me.
But Matthew is the headliner. His name is attached to everything. And he's starting to get worried about a fire festival type situation in the desert.
Yeah,
He wanted to make sure there's plenty of water,
everyone avoided the fire festival.
Insurance, etc., etc. And here, deals and communications start to break down. Eventually, there's a lawsuit, and it's kind of boring.
Things that they were supposed to...
Yeah, memes aside, they gotta make sure that there's like actually food and, you know, for all the people who are going to show up, because there could be genuine concern that people could pass out or whatnot for there just simply being not enough food and water for people to not suffer ill consequences from merely showing up for this meme event, regardless of whether or not shooting happens. Hell, if even only 1,000 people show up, that's still enough to be worried about coordinating food and water for everyone.
Pay for it, I'm stuck paying for it.
Who cares?
We're going to skip it. But the TLDR is that they had a disagreement, and Connie said,
I don't have to prove to you what I spent. You didn't sign a fucking contract with me to begin with. So guess what? I don't need to prove to you a motherfucking thing.
And Matthew said, Matthew then took $70,000 worth of sponsorship money and declared Alien Stock.
Wait. Did I see that right? Accepted and unjustly retained from 70 grand wired by the hub for personal benefit. Right, man.
$70,000 worth of sponsorship money and declared Alien Stock and Rachel cancelled.
Yes,
but
the
then,
hub, Winston.
At the same time, Bud Light walks in.
It's the Bud Night. We're saved.
They say, hey, why not do it here? In the Vegas. It has plenty of lighting, indoor plumbing, it has everything. Matthew said yes. And then using the website for Alien Stock, he told everyone to not go to Rachel and instead to go to Vegas. Welcome to Alien Stock Las Vegas, sponsored by Bud Light. And also Pornhub, but it's a long story. Connie was left to pick up the pieces. However, she would not be discouraged so easily. She decided to press on.
It's going to be a great party. No matter what, it's going to be a great party.
She had to take full control of the event in Rachel, dipping into her savings and even mortgaging her home.
I'm working out of my own pocket.
I think this is a liability. I'm out.
So is it clear what's going on? It's worth doing a very fast recap because there's an event in Rachel that's been declared cancelled but also not cancelled. Also, I forgot to mention there's an event in Hiko that isn't cancelled but it will be on the second day. There's also that third festival in Las Vegas which has the former promoter of the first one and they both share the same damn name. And none of this has anything to do with the actual raid on Area 51, which is here, which has several gated entrances by the way, and none of them have been declared the official gathering point. Confused? Yeah, pretty much everyone was. It's a goddamn mess. People, rightfully, put the whole thing in the too hard basket, and instead of going to one in the middle of nowhere, just...
You see, everything's breaking apart because aliens. Aliens are making sure the event doesn't actually happen in order to protect the secrets. That's what's really happening in the background.
Let's went to the one in Vegas. Let's fast forward to the weekend of the raid. For better or worse, Rachel is about to open its doors to the millennials.
Hell yeah! Alien Stock! Encore now has come to an abrupt halt.
Don't let the aliens get you, kid.
Do you believe in aliens?
I don't. Run! Get out of here!
Oh, you know, I want to hear about the alien liberal agenda. They could have some good talking points. We don't know.
To protect my mind from interference.
We have a wanderer.
Don't let me leave, Murph!
It could be anything stuff.
Even an escaped alien. Blimey.
Put that shirt up over your head like that.
I know. And the first ones are supposed to be always, the best ones. Paranormal lawyer, PhD level field investigator.
Stuff in downtown Las Vegas. Did they change the name, or is it still alien stock?
I think I'm on my highest high I've ever been in my life. Look at it.
And we are taking a look kind of the area here. You've done a lot of work in a very short period of time.
The security's here, the medical's here, the food is here, the people are here. And most importantly, toilets are here.
Very important. Porta potties.
I just went through a breakup, guys.
Well, it wasn't quite the event that they had hoped for, but they did do a commendable job of acting retarded for the news.
This is the most fun I've ever had in my life.
You think of yourself
Here for scientific reasons.
This is like the most millennial thing that's ever happened.
Go there, speak some have fun. Yeah. Could actually be a cool thing if it was like a yearly event or something, but maybe that's coming up. There's still a third of the video left.
But don't let's forget Hiko, or the Heiko. No one knows how to pronounce it. This event was being hosted by George Harris of the Alien Research Center.
The owner of the center is Las Vegas businessman George Harris, creator of Alien Tequila.
If you want to have fun, if you want to have a great look, it's a great day.
Base camp was equipped with a vendor village of 10 food trucks, a gift shop, and 3-time Grammy Award winner Paul Oakenfold. For some reason.
I was told there's a lot of people
Full Genotion, yes,
right now
exactly.
things are kind of slow at the Heiko event here, so that's kind of a disappointment.
Now, Hiko Base Camp was expecting somewhere between 1,000 and 20,000 attendees. It's quite a range.
Maybe 50 people here.
Clapping some alien cheeks.
Yeah, but no cheeks are clapped
where's
at
the
all.
cheeks?
None.
Where's
Zero
the cheeks?
This is like the first
That
of
is
a
disappointing.
big thing.
But it wasn't. In fact, it seems as though the majority of the attendees were actually the press.
One lady believed that her parents is actually alien.
So, after the first night, they decided to cut their losses.
Hey, it's Harold.
The whole event.
Harold the Alien.
Producers of the show, it's very, very, very expensive, and it just didn't make sense.
Because basically all of the attendees were stolen by
Alien Stock 2019.
We were going to go out to Rachel, and then we decided that we didn't want to get stuck in the desert. As much as I like Mad Max, I don't want to live it.
the Las Vegas Alien.
Yes,
Stock
of course I know of Howard the
was a
Alien.
smash
Listen,
hit.
one of my
They've got
favorite alien
carnival
memes.
rides, photo ops, video games, and even a pool. No running.
Who could have predicted this? You make a post at 2 a.m. on a page that has 62 likes, and now you have thousands of people that are ready to come out to your show. It's absolutely amazing.
Back at military HQ,
The raid begins.
operations were ramping up. They're adding more guards, upping the security, and enforcing a no-fly zone across the county. They were even infiltrating raider groups.
You could be standing next to an officer.
Hold up, hold up. What's that? Right there. Is that an alien ship right there? Shot in 4K.
Infiltrating raider groups.
You could be standing next to an officer and not even know it. There's a big undercover presence here.
And they were giving stern warnings from the PR team. They posted this tweet. The last thing millennials will see if they attempt to raid Area 51 today.
Sorry to disappoint you, Yugi. Huh? You triggered my trap card!
Millennials immediately seized upon the tweet, doing what they do best by pretending to be offended, successfully having the tweet taken down.
I am like so
and forcing a
offended.
public apology.
I'm retarded.
Alright, this video is getting very long. Let's hurry up to the main event. The
Here we
raid.
go.
Hey, are you coming?
Yeah.
かがなされたさあどうする私が入って門を開けます。敵は何千人もいるんです。今わずらを程度よくてやれ。
Forget me them alien ladies.
よく聞け。腕に覚えのものあらば言えてよ。どこが橋を渡ってくる。かかれ。よっ。
それからめった打ちにしてやりましょう。
もう開けろ！もう開けろ！
父に別れを告げる。
Yes, the typical anime sniper girl. Can't forget to bring them along. That XQC. No realize he was involved in this event.
Smoking these meats. Good for you.
Oh, there we are. There's the Warball defenses. Oh, the gay frogs deployed. Ripperonies, fallen brethren. Up 10 anime moments.
今一度己に問う侍よ、我に下るか。人が焼ける匂いが。手を飾るか。
俺が死ぬとでも思ったか。根源が滅んだくらいで。
Yes, the Weeb Air Force, can't forget about them. Figuring the coils. Direct injections of the mystery. Yeah, monster, sorry. Monster mystery. Bigger. Of course you can, Winston. That's classified information.
Thank you for saving us. We are so grateful and horny. And yes, we wish to be your big titty goth alien GFs. And you won't be a virgin Reddit browser anymore.
It wasn't quite like that, but it was pretty close to something like that. Although I guess you could say that only a small group showed up to the main gates themselves.
Well, a million people.
Of over 2 million people, in total only about 200 actually went. But it's not about the quantity, it's the quality that counts.
Nice outfit.
Got an intense stuff right there.
Now throw him over!
People mostly behaved themselves.
I mean, I think it's awesome. You guys are following the laws, following directions. So. Yeah.
But they weren't about to leave without a consolation prize. Quick, get some of the Area 51 soil. Top secret rock. Top secret rock.
Where are they? You can have it. It's from Area 51.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also present at the raid were a few YouTubers.
So I came here to get myself an alien as a pet.
We're here to rescue the alien!
It's like Halloween, but we're just annoying people.
Are you guys gamers? Playing games? No? You watch anime?
Yeah, so you got the rebellious youth, and then you got people trying to lure E.T. into a cage with Reese's Pieces and stuff. That's a pretty good summary of the crowd that you have out here this weekend.
But respect
well, at least more people came here than they went to Rachel.
For keeping everyone... just kidding. It's the guys who got underneath this fence. God bless them.
Oh, no!
And this cameraman, whose foot raided the base.
Foot raid!
And this random woman who decides to just start walking. Police, right there. No one's stopping her. Oh my god. She's gonna make it. She's going home. She gets charged for trespassing and receives a $1,000 fine. But soon it was time to wrap up.
The storm is over.
Because everyone's mums were there to pick them up. And if they were late again, there would be big trouble.
Good night, everyone. Yeah, I'm going to sleep now.
Cowards.
Psych, it's not over.
There's one more thing that I want to tell
Yeah,
you.
of course there is more.
Because storming Area 51 would go on to inspire a plethora of other events. The storming of Loch Ness. That thing can't hide from all of us.
We think we have seen it.
What did it look like?
It looks like a big stone.
Over 27,000 said they were going. Actual
Yeah, wasn't there like an event of like storming the Vatican vaults? Or I'll be honest, I don't remember what the goal for storming the Vatican vaults was. But storming the Disney vaults, however, now that's a thing I could get behind, because you know, Disney has vaults where there are artwork that the animators of all the different movies and such that they've done in the past 100 years have never seen the light of day. Including very, let's say, raunchy animations that officially belong to Disney because it was made by a Disney animator and thus has never been seen.
Okay, fine. Storm the Bermuda Triangle, why not? It can't drown all of us. And potentially millions actually went. But the evidence would be lost, so how would you know?
I am under the water. Please help me.
Or how about storm the Vatican? They can't molest
I do
us
like
all.
it when it's old school animated chronic. I do have a thing for when it's quite old school style. If you ever want to see old school sort of art style, I would suggest looking up Blue the Bone. He does excellent old school style art. Yeah.
Everyone had a pretty good time. Isn't that what Area 51
1940s,
really built for?
1920s, modern? Anything that a Disney artist has done is officially owned by Disney. Basically. They're kind of like American Idol, where when you sign up to them, everything you've ever done ends up being their property.
Now, remember when I said that we were going to do shorter videos and also more frequently? Looks like you fell for it. Ah ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. See you in the next one in 2 years. Or check out the Incognito Mode channel. That has a lot more upload. Goodbye.
True. Maybe you could check out the Incognito channel. No, there's a lot of stuff on that channel I haven't watched yet. What to watch though? That being said, I've seen a few of these videos where it's just him and his friends just talking about shit. Like art I saw. Wasn't very fond of that one. I like when there's like at least a narrative going on, like what he did with the Gentleman Pirate, which was him narrating an actual historical event about a actual pirate of sorts. I can't remember the name. I like that, but these other ones where it's just him and his friend just discussing food and whatnot, I'm not actually that fond of them, those videos. My favorite, though, has to be the Swedish Job. True, very true, Winston. Gentleman Pirate should have been on the main channel. Same with the Swedish Job. Alright, what else shall we watch? Let's take a look at... I know what we'll watch. There's gesagt. Alright. Last one that I watched was Black Hole Star. So we've got these 5 videos of Grossius to watch. So actually, this one's just a merch video, so 4 videos to watch.
Look around the room you're sitting in right now. Let's fill it top to bottom with trillions of grains of sand, billions of grains of rice, hundreds of thousands of grapes, a few thousand apples, and a dozen watermelons. This is what the inside of your cells looks like. In terms of numbers, they're mostly filled up with water molecules, the grains of sand. Water gives the cell's insides the consistency of soft jelly and enables other things to move around easily. Almost all the other things, the rice and fruit, are proteins. Several billion in total, more than 10,000 different kinds, depending on the function of the cell. Your cells are basically protein robots, as is all life really. In fact, all solid non-fat parts of your body are mostly made out of protein, even your bones. Proteins are dead things that make life happen. How does this work? The language of life. Cells need to do many very hard things to stay alive. Get food in and waste out, grow and build structures, escape danger or react to stimuli, make copies of themselves, and so on. All of this is done by speaking the language of life. And the words of this language are proteins. This is how this language works in a nutshell. It all begins with amino acids, tiny organic molecules. They're the alphabet of the language of life. There are 21 different ones, like different letters. Amino acid A, amino acid B, C, and so on. If you put around 50 amino acids together, they form a protein, which
again, they need to form everything, so there has to be a lot.
And if you put many of these protein words together, you get a sentence called a biological pathway. Let's oversimplify a bit and say, for example, your cell needs to break down sugar with the language of life. It may take the amino acids for the letters B, R, E, A, and K to form the protein word break. Then combine this word with other protein words to form a biological pathway sentence that means break down sugar. In reality, this language of life is so complex that it defies imagination. You need to know about 8,000 words to speak a human language really well. But in the language of life, there are an estimated 20,000. And while the average English word has 5 letters, human proteins have an average of 375 amino acids. The longest protein has more than 30,000. And cells need to execute thousands of steps at any moment. If they ever stop speaking the language of life, they die. Okay, but how do mindless cells speak a language this complex? Let's dive a little deeper. There are 21 amino acids that can be combined to form proteins. And proteins are made up of dozens to hundreds to thousands of amino acids. For the average protein length of a human cell of 375 amino acids, you get a stunning 6.8 times 10 to the power of 495 possible proteins your cells can make. A quadrillion Google times more than there are atoms in the universe. Most of these possible proteins are useless. Just like with human language, most random letter combinations are just gibberish. So you need to know which words, which proteins, make up a language to speak it properly. And this is the job of your DNA,
so it's like trying to learn German.
Okay. If you untangled a cell's DNA, it would be about 2 meters long. All of your body's DNA combined into one long string would reach to the sun and back over 20 times. Around 1% of your DNA is made up of genes, which are basically protein dictionaries that contain all the words of the language of life your cells speak. But genes are also the building manuals for all the proteins your cells need to function. The rest of your DNA is probably not useless, but basically like a set of rules. It's like the book of grammar of the language of life. Which proteins need to be built at which time? How many of them do you need? Which protein words go together and why? Okay, letters, words, sentences, dictionary, and grammar. But of course, this is all just a metaphor for something mind-numbingly complex. Let's dive a little deeper to catch a glimpse of
the
reality.
universal language. That movie, ever get that name of?
Life. Now that we have some basic principles, we have a chance to understand how dead things make life together. And for that, we need a fundamental force of the universe, electromagnetism. The elementary particles that make up atoms, which make up amino acids, have different charges that attract or repel each other. The 21 different amino acids all have slightly different charges. Some are more negative, others more positive. When your cells build proteins, they put different amino acids together in chains, basically long strings. Now, because of the different charges of the amino acids used, these strings begin to fold in on themselves. This folding process is so complex that we still haven't completely understood how exactly it works. But in a nutshell, 1D strings become 3D structures. Proteins are basically 3D puzzle pieces with a very specific shape. In the world of proteins, shape is everything. Because its 3D shape determines which areas of a protein are charged in which way, and this determines how it can interact with other proteins. All of these differently charged puzzle pieces can snap together or repel each other. When they snap together, their charge changes, which can make them change their shape, which then makes them a new protein, a new tool that can do new things. This is what makes proteins so incredibly powerful. You can do basically everything with them. They can snap together like Lego pieces to build complex structures.
Imagine the day when we can actually design these things ourselves.
Micro machines that use energy to do work. And maybe most stunningly, they can convey information. Let's say there's a toxic chemical entering your cell. There may be a protein shaped to snap to that toxin. If the protein finds that toxin, it changes its shape. With that new shape, it can now snap into a different protein that changes its shape again. This new protein activates a micromachine that directly binds to your DNA to order the production of a special protein which acts as an antidote to the toxin. This cascade of interaction is the pathway we spoke about earlier, a sentence in the language of life. So without a single active thought, proteins have fixed a problem and saved a cell's life. In reality, these pathways can have dozens to hundreds of steps. How life operates is so incredibly awe-inducing. Somehow, mind-numbingly complex interactions between dumb and dead proteins create a less dumb and less dead cell. Somewhere around here, life happens, but we still don't know what life is. How dumb things are smart together. We need another analogy. So
It's a
let's talk
philosophical
about
question. Are your
ants
cells
share a
alive?
fundamental property with cells: they are really dumb. A single ant will just stumble around uselessly. But if you put a lot of ants together, they exchange
philosophical
information
question, I'd
and do
say.
amazing things. Constructing complex structures, organizing themselves, caring for broods, or attacking enemies. Although dumb individually, together they become something greater. This phenomenon occurs all over nature and is called emergence. It's the observation that entities have properties and abilities that their parts do not have. This is how everything in your body works. Your cells are bags of proteins guided by chemistry. But together, these proteins form a living being that can do a lot of really sophisticated things. Cells are mindless robots that are even dumber than ants, but many of them acting together form specialized tissue and organ systems, from muscles that make your heart beat to brain cells that make you think. If you look outside at the incredible dimension and scale of space, a place where forever is a real thing, it's almost impossible not to feel a bit small, not special. But if you look inside into what you really are, you just discover almost indescribable complexity, the beautiful language of life. Almost everything in the universe reveals hidden layers of complexity if you look closer, and if you have the knowledge to understand it. To help you with that, we've created a series of lessons to take your scientific knowledge to the next level. Made in collaboration with our friends at Brilliant.org, these lessons give you a deeper understanding of the topics from our most popular videos, from rabies and mammalian metabolism to climate science
Do
and black
Brilliant
holes.
someday in the future.
Brilliant
I
is an
get time for
interactive
it.
learning tool that makes maths, science, and computer science accessible with a hands-on approach. Because we know that to really learn something, you've got to do it. Think of each lesson
Good
as a
service.
one-on-one tutoring version of a Kurzgesagt video. Brilliant has thousands of other lessons to explore as well, from maths-based topics like algebra and probability to the concepts behind algorithms and artificial intelligence. If you liked the biology discussed in this video, Brilliant's course on computational biology teaches you many important key concepts. You'll learn about DNA instructions, RNA, and protein folding, then learn how those concepts are used to tackle modern challenges like genome sequencing and human health. To get hands-on with Kurzgesagt lessons and explore everything Brilliant has to offer, you can start your free 30-day trial by signing up at brilliant.org/nutshell. There's even an extra perk for Kurzgesagt viewers. The first 200 people to use the link get 20% off an annual membership once their trial ends. We love seeing how the gears interlock with our research. Brilliant gives you the
Bit late for
tools
that
to
for
understand
us.
how everything fits together.
Sure, 200 people have already done that by now. This month. This video
A
is
visually stunning deep
months
dive
old.
into the intricate workings of the smallest unit of life. Like all the sciencey things on our
Still
shop,
good stuff
it's
worth
designed
looking
with
into.
love and produced with care by us here at Kurzgesagt.
Right. Another cell-based science video. Personally, I really prefer their sciencey videos, but their biology ones are not bad, I'd say. The sentence one was rather interesting, I'd say. Let's try the best way to boost your immune system. Science. Probably going to be another one of their videos about vaccines, I imagine. Which, if you have an opportunity to get vaccines, do it. Just straight up do it. My mother was anti-vax, and so I didn't have vaccines for most of my life. Got them now, though.
There's this idea floating around that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, that surviving a disease leaves you better off. And it seems to make sense because we've all experienced this. When you go through hardship, often you come out more resilient, more ready to face it.
I think I've actually seen this one.
But it turns out that sometimes what doesn't kill you makes you weaker.
Yes.
So what happens when you get sick?
Yes, yes, I have seen this one just indirectly. I saw Iron Mouse's I saw Iron Mouse reacting to this video. Was because if you're not familiar with Iron Mouse, she has immune deficiency syndrome, so she had a lot of personal information that you could add to this, much more than I could ever possibly add. So, unfortunately, I don't think we'll go with that video. Labeled as one that I've already seen. And Roxy. Instead, then I guess our next one to see would be the YouTube money. I'll make money on YouTube with 20 million subs. Or it'll be me someday.
In 2023, Kurzgesagt has existed for 10 years. Insanely long in internet years. We're among the largest sciencey channels on YouTube and still a bit of a black box to people. So let's talk about ourselves a bit in 3 parts. Our backstory, how we finance our work, and the values of Kurzgesagt. Let's jump back to a more innocent time. From humble beginnings to today. Kurzgesagt's foundation was laid when Philip, our founder, dropped out of high school as a teenager. Learning seemed daft and useless, and he wasn't interested in anything. Until a very special teacher at a school for dropouts grabbed him by the neck. The way she taught was different. She talked about connections and the big picture.
Nice.
She told a story. For the first time ever, Philip wanted to learn more without being forced. It was a key life experience. Kurzgesagt tries to recreate this experience for you. Nothing is boring if you tell a good story, and we try to tell these stories to spark excitement and make you want to go on and learn more. Because of the one teacher that could do this, Philip got a high school degree, studied history and design, and eventually started Kurzgesagt as a passion project inspired by Crash Course World History. In 2012, YouTube was less commercial and more idealistic. You couldn't make a living with videos as involved as ours, and that was fine. The goal was creative freedom, and so for the first few years, it actually cost money to make Kurzgesagt. We had no outside funding, just intrinsic motivation and a few friends from university. We worked for clients during the day and on Kurzgesagt at night, 80 to 100 hours a week. It was a real struggle, but also very rewarding. But then Patreon launched, sponsorship started, our views increased, YouTube changed. In 2015, the channel began to break even and then to earn a profit. But we were pretty burned out at this point, so we decided to bring in more friends and hire the first team members full-time.
Just grab me a drink.
More people meant that we could stop overworking, do more, and improve. But we also needed to earn more. The livelihood of real humans depended upon it. None of us had any experience in...
Oh, thank you for the hydrate redeem. I just hydrated, but I'll do it again because you redeemed.
It sort of just happened. A decade later, Kurzgesagt is not a small project anymore.
And I'll do the search redeem as well.
Studio with offices in Munich and Berlin. We need computers, monitors, tablets.
Yes, I'm glad you care, and I care about you guys as well. Make sure you guys are also hydrated.
And insurance.
And stretch and all that.
In 2023, our team consists of over 60 employees and a lot of freelancers around the world. Salaries alone cost millions of dollars a year just to stay around. This creates an interesting problem. With such high production costs, how can we publish our work for free? How we finance Kurzgesagt. We've added up our earnings from 2015 through 2022. Our sources of funding change depending on opportunities and the state of the world. Early on, agency work was our main source of income. Ad revenue varies. In some years, we got more sponsorships than in others. The shop didn't exist for a long time, then it became pretty big after we launched our calendar. 62% of our revenue...
At the calendar, I've actually got...
Then it became pretty big after we launched our...
Yeah, I got the 2022 and the... Sorry, the 12022 and the 12023 calendars. I got those too.
Calendar. 62% of our revenue comes indirectly or directly from you. You watch our videos with ads, support us on Patreon, or buy from our shop. The single biggest source of income...
and sometimes you may see me writing the year with the same way Kurzgesagt does in it being 12/022 or 12/023. You may notice that on my some of my schedule posts. That's because I believe in what Kurzgesagt means in terms of adding that extra one to help represent human history.
By far is our shop, that alone accounted for 40% over the last 8 years. The shop started small, but once we published our calendar for the first time in 2016, we realized it could really help us do more things, and we started producing more and more science products, from our posters to our gratitude journal or universe-scented candles. YouTube ads accounted for 13% and Patreon 9%. So without your support, we would cease to exist. Our shop and Patreon are our most important sources of revenue, and because we see ourselves as science communicators, we don't just do merch, but sciencey products that we spend hundreds of hours researching, discussing with experts, polishing up and working on directly with the manufacturers. They are part of the science story we try to tell. It also just feels good to get directly funded by you guys and give you something back for it on top of our videos. YouTube ads are a crucial part of our funding as well, but they are not within our control. Then there's paid agency work, which we stopped doing in 2022. It accounted for 9% of our revenue over the last 8 years. A lot in the beginning, not much by the end. Then there are commercial sponsors advertising products. They accounted for 12% of our revenue. We also got about 7% from German public broadcasting for the German channel, but ended this partnership in 2022. Finally, there are institutional sponsors representing about 10%. Some people take issue with this, especially Bill Gates has come under public scrutiny, and we've been criticized for even working with organizations funded by him. So let's look at this 10% in more detail. About 3% of our revenue over the last 8 years came from the Gates organizations for a wide variety of topics, often suggested by us. 5% comes from open philanthropy and is only used for specific projects. With these funds, we've started Arabic, Hindi, Korean, Japanese, Portuguese, and French channels, bringing more free science content to more people. There's a 2-year funding for original TikTok content, which gives us freedom to explore and learn how to do short-form science communication. The final 2% came from other organizations like the Red Cross or the UN, for example. We choose institutional sponsors carefully, but if organizations want to fund videos that help us spread quality information about relevant topics, this is an easy yes for us, if we have the capacity for it. On top of that, the institutional sponsors we're working with align with our values. We have contracts with every grant giver or sponsor that bars them from editorial influence other than suggesting topic areas like global health or climate change. We agree on video topics together, but sponsors can neither influence details nor our conclusions. The final decision always remains with us. And usually we develop the topics of the videos autonomously and tell the sponsor what we're doing afterwards. If you're interested in how we research our videos in detail, our head of research wrote an article about it. Running an educational YouTube channel is a balancing act that we take very seriously. We're doing our best to maintain this balance, adjusting whenever necessary. As a team and a company, we want to grow to give more people access to a science-based outlook on the world. This brings us to our final topic. Why are we doing Kurzgesagt? Our values and our vision. Our core mission is to spark curiosity. We want to make science and humanism accessible for as many people as possible. The effort we put into creating our videos is a way of achieving that. Our videos are beautiful because that helps to spark curiosity, to understand complex topics, and because it just feels good to create and watch. Our research is as intensive as it is, so our videos are a good simplification of very complicated topics. We want to make people excited about science so they rediscover subjects they hated in school and see how amazing they are. On top of curiosity, we want to inspire long-term thinking and a positive, constructive outlook. Being optimistic about the future of humanity is not mainstream, and we think this is horrible. Pessimism often sounds smart and gets more views, while optimism can sound naive. But this is a bias that's not helpful for us as a species. So, despite the gloominess of many topics, we want to approach them with informed and well-researched optimism. Not brushing humanity's very real challenges aside, but also not falling into the trap of pessimism. We want to inspire you to dream a little about the glorious future that we could actually build, but only if we believe it's possible. In the long run, we don't only want to do this on YouTube. The idea is for Kurzgesagt to be a positive influence across more media. On our TikTok channel,
that a fucking
in the
inkling
long-form
right there?
content we're exploring, in apps, in the VR game that will be released later this year, and the games we plan to make in the future. Our shop is a central part of this vision. We start our stories with a video and end them with a poster. There are so many things we want to do, and thanks to you watching this right now, we have the freedom to work to the best of our knowledge and ability. In the end, we hope you like what we offer and that we'll be doing something worthwhile for as long as we exist. And hopefully, we'll have a lasting impact by making science and learning more fun for as many people as possible. If you personally want to help us do this, you can watch and share our videos, check out our shop, become a Patreon, or give us an ad blocker exception. We exist because of you, and you have no idea how much we appreciate that you're here. And hopefully, we're less of a black box now. In any case, doing Kurzgesagt for a decade has been a pretty crazy ride. And so, from the whole team, thank you so much for being with us all these years.
Yes, and thank you, Kurzgesagt, for everything you do. I know it's hardly unlikely anyone from Kurzgesagt will ever hear me saying that, but it ought to be said anyways. Good content and good morale. This one does pique my interest. Alien invasions.
It's our first limited drop featuring our cosmic pioneer burbs and their space adventures, only for a limited time on the Kurzgesagt shop. The universe
Nice looking
is
scarf.
magnificent and vast. Hundreds of billions of galaxies, trillions of stars, and even more planets. If even the tiniest fraction are habitable, then the universe should be teeming with life. And yet we see nothing, only vast emptiness.
Yes, the Fermi
Where is
paradox.
everyone else? The answer to this riddle could be as exciting as it is creepy. We are early, born before almost all other life. But very soon, this may change. Not only might aliens appear, they could quickly surround us. An irreversible competition for the universe might be about to begin.
Monkey eating a fucking squirrel that time? Bruv.
While this video is based on scientific papers, we're presenting.
I mean, I know it's
interesting
accurate
ideas
to what
based on
probably
recent
happens.
data and lots of
Still.
extrapolation, so take them with a grain of salt. Okay, we need to look at 3 essential questions to understand the galactic competition. 1.
If you've never noticed,
How
they always
fast
change
can
what the monkey is
bacteria
eating
build
in the intro.
spaceships? To become a starfaring civilization, life as we know it needs to master a number of very hard steps. It starts with dead stuff turning into the building blocks of life. Then it needs to organize into self-contained cells.
I mean, I'm sure if you
Those
cook it
cells
well
have
enough,
to learn
anything
to
will
work
taste
together
good, Cornic.
to form multicellular organisms. This keeps going until complex creatures with big brains learn to use tools and language. Civilization has to be formed from cultures that value progress and technological development. And then they need to actually venture out beyond their home planet. On Earth, life appeared basically as soon as the oceans formed. But then it took 2 billion years to make the step from single cells to multicellular organisms, and 2 billion more for us to appear. Culture, civilization, and space travel developed super quickly though.
Yes.
Do things always take that long?
Human
Or was this
society
actually
being
exceptionally
around
fast?
12,000 years old.
Also,
Humans
passing one step
250,000,
does
but
not mean the next one is
quote-unquote
guaranteed.
society around 12,000 years ago.
Evolved over 25 times independently on Earth, but there's only one species that builds spaceships. We don't know how many steps life needs to pass, and how long they take to give rise to a technological civilization, but there are probably many, and it's likely that on trillions of planets, life has been trying for billions of years. Since we don't see any other technological civilizations out there, it might well be that we are a rare exception. We might be among the first, or even the first technological civilization in the Milky Way. But this is just one piece of the puzzle. On top of that, we may have just hit the perfect time window.
I'm with Chronic there. You need to clarify what you're saying, Winston.
The universe is already 13.8 billion years old, but it's unlikely that many other technological civilizations had a chance to appear before us. Because in the earlier universe, life would have had a pretty hard time to emerge, let alone thrive, because it was such a hostile environment. Early stars constantly blew up, galaxies crashed into each other, and supermassive black holes vomited massive amounts of radiation, enough to sterilize galaxies over and over again. Our sun was born right at the end of this cosmic death show. The universe has never been more welcoming to life than it is now. So humanity has arrived at a very convenient spot in time, maybe the earliest reasonably possible for life to thrive. What about the future? The sun burns brighter than 90% of the stars in our galaxy and will keep getting brighter. In about 1 billion years, it will boil all of Earth's oceans and then become a giant that swallows it whole. So in the galactic context, the sun is very short-lived. Most stars are red dwarfs that can sustain habitable planets for tens of trillions of years. Life on these planets has an incredibly long time window to appear and pass the hard steps. Even knowing nothing about how rare or common life is, this makes it way more likely for technological civilizations to appear sometime in the future than in the past. Because if civilizations appear at random in the Milky Way within a time window of 1 trillion years, then very few, if any, would appear before today. Then a couple more arrive in this period of 1 billion years that we're in before all star-faring civilizations that could ever exist emerge altogether. This weird tsunami-like distribution is the result of both the hard steps model and something else. A sort of deadline for any spacefaring civilization. Any civilization coming after will find it hard to have room to survive, so all potential life has to cram in before it. Humanity exists now because otherwise we might have missed this deadline. What or who creates this deadline? Why aren't aliens already on Earth?
Hydrating?
Humans are curious, expansionist, and hungry for energy. We've spread over the world and made it our own. Our technology has been improving over time, first slowly, then breathtakingly fast. If these things don't change drastically and our descendants want to prosper, they will expand into space. We could construct a Dyson swarm for endless energy and transform planets into new homes. We could cross interstellar distances, allowing us to reach for planets around distant stars. If we have the motivation, we can become a galactic civilization. A civilization that does this sort of stuff can be called loud, because its activity creates noise. Signs that can be detected from far away. Imagine someone in a forest, cutting down trees, starting fires, and laying down roads. The more intense their work, the easier they are to notice. An expanding technological civilization would probably be hard to miss. Our telescopes would pick up all that energy, and we would clearly identify artificial interference with stars and planets. Another consequence of this business is that it's very disruptive to the environment. Clearing a forest means the end of its wildlife.
Squirrels again.
Human activity has left no chance for a squirrel civilization to appear. Not
Monkey
because
is no
we
food.
hated squirrels, it's simply that the thought that they might want to do that at some point never crossed our minds, and we needed wood. Similarly, if loud civilizations were running around the galaxy in the past, terraforming planets or harvesting the energy of stars, they may have prevented our existence. Had aliens started colonizing Earth while we were still sludge in the oceans, that sludge would never have turned into humans. This is how loud aliens create a deadline for new civilizations appearing. The galaxy may have trillions of years to create life, but there may only be a short window for it to spread and thrive. Even if a loud civilization respects planets with naturally occurring life and expands around them like humans do with wildlife reserves, any civilization on such a planet would not be able to expand ever, trapped forever on a tiny island. But here we are, so loud aliens were probably never here. What about aliens that don't expand? They would be quiet aliens. They're probably limited to one star system and don't have a noticeable impact on their cosmic surroundings. Humanity is like this right now. We wouldn't be able to detect ourselves from the other side of the Milky Way. If they stay quiet forever, maybe because of their culture or abilities, then they are not really a concern for us. We only have one sample to draw from, humanity, and right now, we are on the path to becoming loud. If we're not special and succeed anyway, then any other civilization with the motivation and resources to would eventually expand beyond its planet of origin. Okay, what are the consequences of all these assumptions and ideas? Grave consequences. Race to the stars. If we are really early, then eventually others will catch up with us. Civilizations will emerge all over the place, and these new aliens will look at space, see no signs of life, and come to the same conclusion. They exist because loud civilizations have not yet taken over everything, but it only takes one loud civilization to crowd them out of the entire galaxy. They, like us, will face an important decision. Do they stay quiet, take it easy, and tend to their planet for as long as possible, or do they start expanding to take a chunk of the galaxy before someone else arrives? Meeting others does not necessarily mean war or conflict, but it means that new borders will arise, limits that may persist forever. In the worst case, a civilization could be completely enveloped by the empires of others, eternally doomed to be a galactic backwater without control over their fate. So if we want a seat at the galactic adults' table, we best get to work. If we really are early, we have an incredible opportunity to mold thousands or even millions of planets according to our vision and dreams. And one day when we meet others, we can greet them and meet them as equals. Wouldn't that be nice? Wait, what's this? We finally received a signal from the Cosmic Pioneers crew that we lost contact with 10 years ago.
You can't see it because of me, but it says advertisement on the bottom right of the screen.
Reveal what happened to them and immortalize them in our very first drop collection. These amazing shirts, hoodies, beanies, and scarves will only be available for a short time, so grab them while supplies last. If you want to explore the vast universe from the comfort of your own home, we've got a lot of amazing space and science-inspired products for you. All of our products are designed and produced with love and care by us here at Kurzgesagt. They're an integral part of the science story we try to tell, so start your journey on our channel and continue it with one of our posters, notebooks, or plushes. Every purchase directly funds what we do on this channel. Thank you so much for your support. And never stop dreaming of space adventures.
Yeah, that just does generate a bunch of things to think about. The Fermi paradox, primarily. Because think about human development. If we assume that human development was only possible after the extinction of the dinosaurs, for example. The extinction of the dinosaurs happened 65 million years ago. And humans have been around for a mere 250,000 years. If we had evolved only just a million years earlier, so 64 million years after the extinction of the dinosaurs instead of 65, today we would probably be a galactic civilization. That's just how quickly we develop. So the question is, if it can happen that quickly, how come we haven't seen any evidence of it happening anywhere else? It only takes a million years, roughly speaking, rough estimate of course, within a 1 million years of a species, of an intelligent species evolving, there will be a spacefaring galactic civilization. And the galaxy has been able to host, the galaxy has been safe enough without having, like, you know, stars exploding, causing entire regions to be irradiated. The galaxy has been safe enough for life to develop for billions of years. At least, or in the very least, hundreds of millions. So the question is, what is the great filter that's preventing such societies from developing? That is the mystery. That is the Fermi paradox. Even if 0.01% of the planets in the galaxy are lucky enough to be in a position that life can develop, that would still mean there ought to be hundreds, if not thousands of planets in our galaxy that could be having life. Personally, my solution to the Fermi paradox is that I think it's just very hard for intelligent, sapient life to develop. I think life is very common, but intelligent life, I think that's what's rare. I think we're past the barrier on the Fermi paradox that is preventing alien species from developing into galactic species. Because dinosaurs were able to exist and be dominant on the planet for millions upon millions of years. But I don't think dinosaurs were capable of developing an intelligent species like us, because things were just too competitive among the super predators that existed and dominated the Earth back then. And I think that's probably what happens on most planets. Predators who are too capable of wiping out intelligent species dominate said planets. That's my thought on this, at least. So when we do become a galactic species, most of the, if not all of the inhabited planets that we come across will be basically Jurassic Park, every time. Every planet will be a Jurassic Park. Jurassic World, as they call it nowadays. Alright, what videos do you guys want me to react to? Right, we got a link from Winston of a video about Flat Earth. Oh dear. Oh yes, and also Mustard. Yes. Well, we'll do your Flat Earth video that you linked, Winston. Then we'll do that.
Today's corporate
oh dear, it's sponsored. A long video, 40 minutes, blimey. Oh god. Oh dear. Yeah, flat earthers are quite special, aren't they? I encounter them quite frequently on Facebook, because of course I like space subjects, and of course that means Facebook suggests to me space posts, and of course then those space theory posts are then filled with flat earthers. Well, not necessarily filled, but you'll find one in every comment section. Yeah, like that one that I tagged you, Winston, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I encounter a few of those every single day. This is a notification I got. Posted. Yada. Okay.
By Daily Harvest.
Nothing important. Alright. I have seen some videos from Illuminati before. I watched her video on SeaWorld, I think. That's literally what the flat earthers say about delusion and lies and all that stuff, and that they always call us round earthers deluded. And let's just watch the video. Okay. Oh, quote from Mark Twain. Oh, thank you for the hydrating.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Now, this is a video I have wanted to make for a while now. I don't really know what took me so long, especially since you guys so obviously know on the channel that I would not be a fan of flat earthers, but I don't know, it just took me a while, I guess. The other part was that I really did not want to approach this video as a joke because, let me tell you, I want to so badly, but I really have to try and give this a fair shake, just like I would any other organization. This is not a video to make fun of people that are objectively delusional or willingly misguided. This video is to explore why people believe what they do and how some groups of cultish mindsets can become so set in their ways that there's no amount of truth that can convince them otherwise. And yeah, there is obviously bound to be a few awkward laughs here and there because I don't think I'm going to be able to be 100% serious when talking about this. So today we are going to finally be talking about the Flat Earth Society. Ever since I saw the Netflix documentary Behind the Curve in 2018, I've always been curious about Flat Earth. Now, as a concept, it's pretty laughable, but as a group. Now, the thing is, for those of you that have not seen the documentary, there's a lot of like different smaller groups in the
GSN Wayne. Oh, welcome GSN. Yes, thank you for the follow, GSN, yesterday. We're doing some YouTube reaction content. How are you doing? It was Pumpkin Soul, another. Let's see, I don't believe in the ground earth, Dutch, and flat earther turns flats. What? Hey, Yellow, how's you come offering 3 motivational nugs of wisdom, but it comes with harmless prank if you accept the prank. It's an old meme I've revived. Eh? I'm confused.
The whole flat earth belief system, and it encompasses a whole lot more than just the earth is flat. It's often more complicated than that because when you have one massive belief that's so easily debunked, it takes other beliefs and strange reasoning to support the theory, like, you know what I mean? Now, I realize I'm getting a little ahead of myself and I'm pretty ready to jump the gun on this, but let's go ahead and start with where modern flat earth societies even came from. So these modern flat earth societies began with a man named Samuel Rowbotham, Mark Sargent as featured in the Netflix documentary, which is, by the way, someone who's emailed me before when I've poked fun at flat earth. And yes, Mark, I've seen the documentary, and no, Mark, it did not change my mind. I think you're still a little loopy, but let's keep going. Now, Mark Sargent was featured in a Netflix documentary that is widely seen as one of the modern leaders of flat earth, and we will get to him because, you know, I got a bit invested in this, but for all the wrong reasons, really. Now, while he is considered like the modern leader of the Flat Earth Society, Samuel, born in 1816, he was like an English inventor and writer, and he wrote a book called Zetetic Astronomy. He's the guy that's considered to be kind of like the founder of these beliefs. He's also created such stunning works such as Earth Not a Globe under the pseudonym Parallax. And no, by the way, he was not an astronomer, though he used the Zetetic astronomy as he referred to it.
I was surprised. Not an astronomer, but qualified to talk on the subject.
Pole and bound by walls of ice at the perimeter. You guys have probably seen this memed on way too many times, but this is kind of where
it's the ice wall.
Now, according to Samuel, we're all living in
Tell me this, flat earthers. The earth is flat. then that means you should be able to see straight across the ocean, right? Flat Earth, you should be able to see straight across the ocean. Maybe you'll need a telescope to see the other side, but there should be nothing obstructing your view. So why can't I see straight across the ocean? Why can't I see the Great Ice Wall? Or other continents? Or mountains? I often tell this any flat earther I come across, and they struggle to try to give me an answer.
Some sort
Because of course they can't.
like environment, and this is what many flat earthers actually believe today, and it's also what Mark Sargent states that he believes at the beginning of Behind the Curve. The big question here obviously is why. Why did Samuel believe this?
Exactly,
and how
Winston.
can his
Exactly.
beliefs gain so much traction that they're still used today when they're so unbelievably unbelievable? Well, this is due to at least partially the Bedford level experiment. Samuel argued that if the Earth is a globe, it should of course curve in some places. There was a canal in England called the Old Bedford that he used for experiments. This canal is 20 miles in length and passes in a straight line. The water is nearly stationary, which I guess to Samuel proved that the Earth was flat, because a long canal was stationary, and that means that the Earth is not a globe. The funny thing here is that at first no one really believed him. He got very little attention overall. It wasn't until in 1870 a supporter by the name of John Hampton offered a wager that he could prove the Earth was flat that people started to care. A naturalist and qualified surveyor, Alfred Russel Wallace, took that bet, and here's what happened according to Scientific American. In January of 1870, Alfred Russel Wallace found himself on a collision course with a group of creationists who fervently believed the Earth is flat. The father of biogeography, co-discoverer of the theory of evolution by natural selection, seems an unlikely sort to be mixed in with religious fanatics on a question of geography settled in the 3rd century BC. Why?
See, this is interesting. You know, how creationists think you're the slut, when the Bible doesn't actually say that. Doesn't. The most often thing that I come across is the idea of the firmament. A dome-like structure that is supposedly the night, is supposedly the sky, even though that's not in the original Bible. Not in the original Hebrew Bible, at least. That's only in there as a result of modern English translations. So, for example, and specifically the example of the quote-unquote firmament, excuse me, the original word that was used to describe it, the original Hebrew word, was rakia. And rakia does not translate to firmament. It's a verb that sort of describes to spread about, and in an expanse. That is what rakia properly translates to. And that could very easily be used as a descriptive term for outer space as we know it, and a great expanse. Anyways, as a side note there, let's get back to the video.
Why was such a venerable 19th century man of science accepting wagers from flat earthers regarding the shape of our planet? Simply put, it looked like easy money. Charles Darwin and Charles Lyell ignored the bet, but it's worth noting here that Wallace at the time had a quote, open, trusting nature and perpetual near poverty, end quote. So it doesn't seem like Wallace was just trying to openly mock them, he was just honestly down to win an easy bet. And at first it was easy money. He did win the bet after all. He set a straight line 13 feet above the water and added poles in the middle that could be used to see the curvature. And, you know, since like the Earth isn't flat, Wallace won. But Samuel and Hampton were pissed. Apparently, Hampton threatened to kill him, and Wallace was later criticized by his peers for his involvement in a bet to decide the most fundamental and established of scientific facts. In other words, other scientists told him he was stupid for even humoring these people. Wallace wrote about his experience with Hampton and Samuel later, stating that the matter cost
you gotta humor them a little bit. Yes, they're incredibly stupid, but if you just tell them that, they're not going to listen to you. You gotta humor them a little bit if you want them to actually learn something. Challenge their belief. Don't discriminate it. Challenge it. There's a bit of a difference, important difference, if you want them to actually genuinely learn and become a contributing member to society. Oh, I thank you, Pumpkin Soul. I appreciate it.
Me 15 years of continued worry, litigation, and persecution, with the final loss of several £100. And it was all brought upon me by my own ignorance and my own fault. Ignorance of the facts so well shown by the late Professor de Morgan that paradoxers, as he termed them, can never be convinced, and my fault in wishing to get money by any kind of wager. It constitutes, therefore, the most regrettable incident of my life. And I really feel like this is a crucial part of the story. The thing is, I try to encourage healthy debate on this channel. Some things are pretty black and white, but there are many
One day
topics
that'll
or
be a feature I
situations
can
that
do in my
fall into
model.
the gray
Damn
area
it.
here, and that's why I want your opinions in the first place. Whether it's about what consequences someone might face after taking part in criminal activity or things of that nature. I'm a firm believer in civil discussion with everyone because everyone deserves to be heard, right? Well, I'm not sure. Not anymore, that is. Because the thing is, Wallace took up a bet that Hampton offered, proved on their terms that the Earth was curved, and he still received death threats for it. Some people simply cannot be reasoned with and cannot be debated, so I'm not saying that every single flat earther is like that, but I guess my unfortunate point here is just don't try to prove a point to people and debate people that are so close-minded that they would rather threaten your life than hear you out. But anyway, despite the evidence, the idea of the Earth being flat caught on with some people during that era somehow. The International Flat Earth Research Society of America continued to grow out of these beliefs. Samuel Rowbotham at first called them the Universal Zetetic Society before the name was changed. A different Samuel, Samuel Shenton, led the society before he died in 1972 and passed the leadership to Charles Johnson, who died in 2001. Charles Johnson apparently believed in flat Earth because an elementary school teacher failed to explain to him the concept of gravity in a way he could understand. His wife, Marjorie, also
I've encountered that as well. I have encountered people like that as well who think that somebody who tried to argue with me that because on a curved Earth, how could a river exist? Because basically they were trying to apply flat Earth idea of gravity rather than round Earth thought of gravity. They thought that gravity was one consistent direction everywhere, when gravity is curved. Gravity is a sphere just like the Earth. In fact, the Earth is a sphere because gravity is a sphere. Anyways, I have genuinely encountered such individuals.
She did not hang from her toes when she was in Australia, and I'm not bullshitting you. That's legitimately her reasoning why. It seems like the Johnsons were just taught gravity in some kind of simplified way, or maybe a way that just didn't quite make sense to them, and they just decided, well, that's it. We're never going to ask any more questions again, and that's final. Now, for a while, the Flat Earth Society died down a bit. They never completely vanished, but things were quiet. When Johnson passed and his wife, who managed the membership database, also passed, it seemed like the group may have finally had the opportunity to fade out. And that is until Daniel Shenton.
It can be quite annoying, Cornick,
he's actually not related to Samuel Shenton from before.
I've been used them sometimes.
A common last name among Flat Earth Society leaders.
And like seeing them get angry.
Daniel issued a press release for the Flat Earth Society opening to new members.
That and moon landing conspiracy nuts. Though one particular individual did actually get me rather upset, and I had to block them because they decided to start harassing me by posting literally to every single post on my Facebook page about how I have not proven to them the fact that moon landing is real. They were literally spamming it to every single post on my page. I had to outright block them. And when it comes to moon landing deniers, it's basically the case that they claim they want proof, but they don't. They really don't. No matter what they say, they don't actually want proof. Because every single piece of proof you provide to them, they will say is faked. So what they're really after is a sense of superiority over you. That's what they're after. They want to feel like that they are in the know, and therefore superior to you. And they want you to provide proof so that they can quote unquote debunk it and be superior to you.
Members, and here's what it had to say. The Flat Earth Society is officially launching its new website and opening membership to new members for the first time since 2001. The website, now online at www.theflatearthsociety.org, features the largest public collection of flat Earth literature
Very
in the
interesting,
world,
Winston. You'll have to share
as
that
well as a comprehensive
in the
user-edited
Discord.
encyclopedia and a thriving online discussion.
By the way, to those of you who are just joining us, if you want to join the Discord link is right here. Yeah.
Forum with over 500,000 messages. The official launch of the website marks an important transition for the Flat Earth Society. Traditionally, the Flat Earth Society has communicated with its members through printed newsletters such as the Earth Not a Globe Review and Flat Earth News. Technology has moved on, and we are thrilled to be able to reach a much broader audience with our message, Flat Earth Society President Daniel Shenton said. The internet is an amazing tool for communication. The Flat Earth Forums, a web message board run by the Society, has gathered over 16,000 users and 500,000 messages before its launch in 2004. Although membership in the Society went through a period of decline in the late 1990s, there has recently been a resurgence in interest, according to Shenton. In the past 2 years, there have been major books published about the Flat Earth movement, as well as articles on the BBC website and Fox News, which included interviews with one of the Society's most prominent members, James McIntyre. According to him, the myth of globularism has been proselytized for centuries by the scientific establishment. We seek to challenge that dogma. Shenton adds, I think we're capturing the public's imagination, and that's very important. I realize that our views are still considered highly unorthodox, but people are beginning to ask questions, and that's the first step in a long process of truth-seeking. Other countries like Canada and Italy have their own history with Flat Earth, so I'm not going to get into all of it, but I do want to explain why I think this growth is happening. The thing is, believe it or not, Mark Sargent from Behind the Curve explains it best, which, whoo, but here we go. He says that the reason why we're winning is because science throws a lot of numbers at you, whereas I can point and say, there's Seattle, you shouldn't be able to see it from here. He's in his mom's backyard, pointing across a body of water to the city skyline. The thing is, I think most of us watching can easily debunk Mark. Yes, the Earth is a globe, but it's gradual too. The reason he can see Seattle is because the Earth curves somewhere between 8 inches per mile. So Seattle, which isn't that far away from Mark's mother's home, isn't going to just disappear behind the Earth's curvature as Mark states it would. But the thing is, Mark is right about one thing. It sounds simpler. Initially. When you get into all the convoluted conspiracies that you have to believe, like the faked moon landing and things of that nature, in order to make Flat Earth make sense, then yes, it all kind of starts to fall apart. But at first glance, to people who struggle with the concept of gravity, yes, it does seem like an easy explanation. And I'm not trying to sound mean by saying this, but I think that someone who can't understand gravity or very, very, very basic science is probably more likely to fall down this rabbit hole and insist how right they are, dig their heels in, and say that the rest of the world is wrong, as opposed to recognizing like, hey, these basic scientific concepts are either too advanced for me or weren't explained to me properly. There are most certainly things in my childhood that were explained to me very simply, and as an adult, I learned the complexities behind them or just went into my own rabbit hole down it because I was still interested. But, you know, hey, I guess not everyone does that. Anyway, today what I would like to do is go over some of the concepts that Flat Earth does believe, aside from the obvious the Earth is flat terminology. They have their evidence, and there's massive air quotes here on the evidence portion to support this, and I want to kind of pick it apart bit by bit and disprove a lot of the misconceptions behind this Flat Earth theory. I've heard before that plenty of people, according to Mark Sargent, end up believing in Flat Earth because they struggle to debunk it, so let's debunk it together. Now, as many of you guys know, it's the new year and it's time to refocus on taking care of yourself. And today's sponsor, Daily Harvest, is making that just a little bit easier. Daily Harvest
well, I've never
is
met
a company
a
that is
flat
delivering
earther
delicious
in
food
person
built on
either.
organic fruits and vegetables
Ronak.
right to your door. My
But
favorite thing from
I
them
encounter
is
them
smoothies
frequently
right now.
on
I'm addicted to
Facebook.
smoothies.
Because I
love
am
them.
one of the
They're
very
so
few
easy to just make
VTubers in
and
existence that
they
actually
have a
still
chocolate
actively uses
blueberry one
Facebook.
that is literally
I've
just
only encountered like 2 or
chef's
3
kiss
other
with
VTubers who
blueberries,
do.
bananas, spinach, almond, cacao, maca. It's so good. But they also have like strawberry and peach, mint and cacao. There's like so many variations.
Exactly. They are definitely keyboard
And they
warrior
have
type individuals.
flatbreads, they have bowls and soups as well. And the thing that's really important to me is they don't use preservatives, added sugar, or artificial anything. And they just launched their first ever plant-based milk collection, starting with almond milk. Daily Harvest milk is made of only almonds and a dash of sea salt. That's it. And Daily Harvest is also committed to minimizing their environmental impact. They're in the process of transitioning to 100% compostable, recyclable, plant-based, and renewable fiber packaging. Daily Harvest is undeniably delicious, clean food without any of the prep, which makes it much easier for me. So if you want to get started today, go to dailyharvest.com and enter promo code CASKET to get $25 off your first box. Again, that's promo code CASKET for
Yeah, geez, I mean, I know not many people use Facebook nowadays. It's full of boomers and all that, but there's still plenty of young folk like us. Well, I'm not really that young, I think. Depends on how you define young, but I still find enough, like, you know, meme groups and weeb groups and all that. That's mostly what I'm in on Facebook, but there are definitely plenty of boomers and such. But being an active Facebook user, you gotta take your lumps when it comes to people calling you out for, hey, this guy uses Facebook. Yeah. Anyways, back to the video.
For $25 off your first box at dailyharvest.com. And if any of you get this and decide to try some of the smoothies, let me know what you think and what are your favorites, and do you like the chocolate and blueberry one, or is that just a me thing? Let me know. Again, dailyharvest.com.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm older than you, Winston, aren't I? I think. I don't remember what age you are.
One of the biggest pieces of evidence flat earthers claim are flight patterns. Mark Sargent, again a noted flat earther, said that when he looked at
so you're actually older than me, Winston.
none were coming from the southern hemisphere. But like, it's just a straight up lie. Like, I don't know how else to say that, but he's simply wrong here. This is an insanely easy test to perform to see planes coming from the southern hemisphere, and there's a logical explanation for why planes don't fly in a straight line. The reason for this is down to simple mathematics and physics. The circumference of the Earth is a lot further around the equator than it is at its higher or lower altitudes towards the poles of the Earth. Such is the spherical shape of our planet. Flying around the smaller circumference of the Earth is called the Great Circle Route, and also very noticeable for flights from the US and Asia will fly far above Alaska and Siberia, rather than what would appear to be a straight line. If you think about drawing a line around a globe in the middle where it's widest versus towards the North or South poles, the differentiation of distance begins to become apparent, and it not only saves a huge amount of time, but also fuel. And it is possible that perhaps I am misinterpreting what flat earthers believe, but from the sounds of things, their argument is that, oh, look at all the planes up in the northern hemisphere where their center of the Earth is. They're flying that way because the Earth is flat and the southern hemisphere is really where the ice wall is, that Antarctica, or the south wall is really the ice wall. Guess this might not take long because that one was not really difficult to debunk, honestly. Not to mention this, but why wouldn't the planes see this supposed ice wall? If we have a gigantic ice wall surrounding the Earth, then why can't planes fly over it and see to the other side? Wouldn't planes be able to see proof of this? Well, a lot of flat earthers call this the Pac-Man effect. That once a plane reaches one end of the flat Earth, they teleport to the other side. You know, like in the video game, Pac-Man.
There's some serious science fiction going on there.
See what I mean about having to believe even more crazy conspiracies, like the deeper you get into this, that are so blatantly false?
Believing that not only is there an ice wall, but there's a little teleportation wall. Okay.
To see people forcing their ideas to work, blaming actual teleportation in order to support their theories. Hell, some flat earthers even deny gravity altogether and say the only force in nature is electromagnetism. If gravity doesn't support their theories, throw that bitch out. Basic logic does not support their theories, throw that shit out the window too. As for our next topic, that's going to be the seasons. If the Earth is flat and the sun and moon are just hovering above us, then how could we have seasons? Some have said that relatives and fellow flat earthers claim the sun shifts from one side of the flat earth to the other, but that doesn't explain why New York and LA, or places that are in the entire same season, have different times when the sun sets. According to Live Science, in the most popular flat Earth maps, the North Pole sits roughly at the center of the planetary disk, while Antarctica forms a giant ice wall along the planet's circumference. The equator forms a ring hallway between the two. Many modern flat earthers now believe that the sun sits about 3,000 miles over the Earth, but Rowbotham's general idea remains popular in the community. Here's how members of the Flat Earth Society, one of the foremost flat Earth activist groups in the world, describe the idea on their official wiki page. The sun moves in circles around the North Pole.
Well, you see, Winston, how they describe time zones is the fact that the sun is more like a lamp, and it shines in only specific directions. It's not shining in all directions, it's shining like a lamp, and thus is only shining over certain parts of the world at any given time. And then the seasons is that the lamp itself is moving around in a circle every 365 days. That's how flat earthers describe it. It's bullshit, but that's how they describe it. Or at least that's how I would if I were a flat earther.
Head, it's day. When it's not, it's night. The light of the sun is confined to a limited area, and it acts like a spotlight upon the Earth. The diameter of these sun circles governs the seasons. According to one popular theory, the sun circles closest to the North Pole in June, then spends the next 6 months spiraling slowly outward towards the
Or there's this method here, which makes even less sense.
The sun reverses course and spirals back inward again. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, the sun circles in a perfect loop around the equator, casting light on half of the disk world at any time.
That sounds like a good idea.
Voila, seasons. This explanation has had its problems. For starters, a sun circling 3,000 miles above a flat Earth would never actually set, even in the most southern latitudes. YouTube user Wolfie6020, a globe Earth proponent, demonstrated this by building a scale model of the flat Earth-style sun as it would be seen from Sydney on the vernal equinox. As shown in his video, the sun, actually a drone carrying a ping-pong ball, never dips below the horizon, even at its farthest point from the observer. Moreover, during an equinox, the sun appears to rise due east and set due west everywhere on Earth except at the poles. For this to hold true on a flat Earth, where some cities are physically many times farther away from the sun than others, the sunlight would have to bend at hundreds of different angles simultaneously. That's the only way it could appear as if it was always coming from the east. YouTube user Flat Out, another prolific globe Earth proponent, demonstrated the impossibility of this explanation using simple computer simulations in 2017. So far, no flat Earth model has been able to resolve these problems. So the thing here is that flat earthers aren't simply rejecting the idea of Earth being a globe, they're rejecting sunsets too. I get that not everyone is an astronaut and will see how the Earth is round with their own two eyes, but how can someone deny a sunset? I mean, hell, I just had a beautiful one today in Colorado. By this very logic, sundials wouldn't work either, and with the sun so close, we'd surely be burning to a crisp as well, right? I can really hardly consider it logic by any stretch of the imagination. The thing is, all this got me wondering how people proved the Earth was round.
Oh yes, the Matrix. Yeah, sure.
Surely it would work today.
Yeah, this is definitely aneurysm triggering content.
Eratosthenes, who helped
But
prove
yes,
the Earth is a
I
globe over
did recently come across somebody claiming that we are in a matrix. And maybe they were a flat earther, maybe they weren't, I don't know. But some flat earthers probably think we're in a matrix, and that's to explain how the sun works on a flat earth, which is probably also simulated in this matrix. I don't know. I didn't really engage with them, so I don't know. Or at least I did reply to them, but they never fucking responded, so they were cowards who couldn't even stick around to explain their theory that we are in a matrix. So that's a mystery that is a mystery I'll never be able to go solve in my lifetime and will haunt me into my grave. That one person who said we were in the Matrix. They have forever haunted me.
Do this, you might ask? He did it with a stick in the ground, the simplest, basic test. Eratosthenes had heard in Syene, a city south of Alexandria, no vertical shadows were cast at noon on the summer solstice. The sun was directly overhead. He wondered if this were also true in Alexandria.
I mean, if he offered one of those, I'd have taken, but he didn't offer anything.
And waited to see if a shadow would be cast at noon. It turns out there was none, and it measured about 7 degrees. Now, if the sun's rays are coming in at the same angle at the same time of day, and a stick in Alexandria is casting a shadow while a stick in Syene is not, it must mean that the Earth's surface is curved. And Eratosthenes probably already knew that. The idea of a spherical Earth was floated around by Pythagoras around 500 BC and validated by Aristotle a couple centuries later. If the Earth really was a sphere, he could use his observations to estimate the circumference of the entire planet.
Perhaps.
Since the difference in shadow length is
Perhaps you are in Matrix. Perhaps I'm not even real. Perhaps I'm just a simulation of some funny skeleton on the internet, and I'm not really here. I don't exist. But I think I exist. But then again, every NPC thinks they exist. They feel it in their bones that they exist. Any NPC wouldn't be given the knowledge that they are in fact an NPC. Every NPC you've ever played in any game thinks they are a real being.
That means the two cities are 7 degrees apart on Earth's 360 degrees surface. He hired a man to pace the distance between the two cities and learned that they were 5,000 stadia apart, which is about 800 kilometers. He could then use simple proportions to find the Earth's circumference. 7.2 degrees is 1/50th of 360 degrees. So 800 times 50 equals 40,000 kilometers. And just like that, a man 2,200 years ago found the circumference of our entire planet with just a stick and his brain. And look, I hate math, right? You guys know I hate
Birds are indeed
when I'm
real.
talking about math on this channel, whether it's inflation, percentages, you name it, I have to triple check myself.
Which does remind me, I did join a group on Facebook for a while about birds aren't real, because just for the funny meme part of it, right? But that's literally all that group was. It was just posting that same meme over and over in various different formats, and it got actually annoying because they couldn't be at least creative with the joke. And eventually I had to leave that group. And I think there may have been a small percentage of the people in the group who thought it, who genuinely believed the birds aren't real. I mean,
because it's just not my gig. It's
but that's hard to tell inside that group.
So I'm not
hard to tell whether or not they were
if you can't make these calculations in your head, then you are foolish or something. But at the very least, I can understand the concept and how he got from point A to point B. In the flat Earth model, there's really no explanation for these shadows being so different. If the Earth was flat, it simply wouldn't happen. You can't rewrite that 1 + 1 = 2 just because you don't like the answer, or it doesn't support your warped math or whatever kind of logic you're attempting to use. But that's exactly what these people are doing. From planes to seasons to the circumference of the Earth, all of that actual evidence is being ignored. Another aspect of this is other planets. Mark Sargent has argued in interviews before that other planets are nothing but pretty lights and may appear around, but they're not. Not everyone believes this way though, at least according to Newsweek. They brought in a couple of flat earthers and interviewed them, asking the question, what about other planets? And here's what they found out. I honestly... Boy! 2.5 years ago,
want to be going boy to all of these
system. For me personally, I just see them as lights in the sky. That belief actually harkens back to an ancient definition of planets as wandering stars, which was first recognized as incorrect by Nicholas Copernicus in 1543. Davidson says that means planets are kind of like stars, definitely not terra firma planets, making them a set of similar but different stars.
I mean, we've
also
known the
says that our
existence
sun
of
isn't the same
Jupiter
as other
since
stars since it doesn't twinkle.
200
In
BC.
fact, our sun is very
Granted,
normal,
we
and
may
no
not have known
stars
it was a
twinkle
planet
when
then, but we
perceived
knew about
phenomenon
Jupiter
comes from Earth's
back then.
atmosphere interfering with
Before
the light.
Jesus. Jesus could have
Davidson
known about
says
the
he
existence of
doesn't have
Saturn.
any sense of what planets are made of or what shape they would be. I wouldn't go so far as to say everything's flat, he said. The sun, moon, and planets, they appear to be spherical. They could be disks, he added. I don't think it really matters too much, he said. I just don't believe that we're on a sphere. So I guess what we've observed about other planets is another one
Yes,
of
the
those things
other
we're throwing out the
traditional
window
flat
too.
earther
Nope, NASA's wrong as well.
response, oh,
They've
well,
called
that
it a
fact just
tool of the
doesn't matter.
government, a tool
It's
of
irrelevant.
the new world, and a tool of Satan. Even if this were the case, I don't think this explains the planets. After all, anyone with a halfway decent telescope can see the planets and tell that they are definitely not flat. But let's get on to the next thing that debunks flat Earth: long-distance photography and viewing things from a distance. One example I've seen used in my sources is how a boat simply doesn't turn into a tiny dot on the water the further away it gets. It looks as if it sinks into the horizon because of, the curvature of the Earth. As one source
You
explains,
see, the explanation that I've seen for this from flat earthers is water mountains. I'm not joking. Water mountains. Mountains made of water. And that is what ships disappear behind. That is a reasoning some flat earthers like given.
it all starts with the horizon. As objects recede from you, they begin to look smaller and slowly disappear in a very unique way. First, their bottoms become hidden, and then their tops. If you've ever watched a ship on the horizon, you've seen this for yourself. Similarly,
I haven't seen
from a great
Interstellar.
distance, the tops of tall objects
don't
like
know.
mountains are visible well before their bases. Earth's atmosphere is capable of playing funny tricks on our eyes, with different layers of air-bending light into interesting directions. This phenomenon, a side effect of Earth's curvature, isn't a surefire guarantee of our planet's curve, but it's a start. But even if you can't look into the horizon for evidence, you can look up. Different stars are visible from different parts of the Earth, in two very peculiar ways. First, there is a division between the northern and southern hemispheres, so you can see Polaris, the star nearly directly above the north geographic pole of the Earth, quite easily in northern latitudes. But as you travel south approaching the equator, Polaris sinks lower and lower towards the horizon. Once you've crossed that boundary, you can't see it at all. It's blocked by the curve of the Earth in that direction. Similarly, as you travel south, new constellations await your delighted gaze, ones that would be completely obscured by Earth's curve if you stayed up north. There's another trick you can play too. If you live in an especially flat area, you'll be able to see stars down to the horizon, but no further, because the Earth is in your way. But if you travel up, say, to the top of a mountain, you get a better vantage point and can see stars further down than you could before. And flat earthers have yet to explain this. Science can explain long-distance photography, the way a boat sinks on the horizon, as well as why skyscrapers are visible despite the curvature of the Earth. But flat Earth science has yet to do so. I don't think I can go through every single aspect of flat Earth today because, we'll be here for a very, very, very long time. And will also become continually frustrated as their standards for reasoning sink lower and lower. But I'll debunk these theories for just a bit longer before we talk about why this is so important and one of the reasons why I made this video in the first place.
Yes, and of course, distrust of NASA because you distrust the government. That's the other big thing.
The last of the big
Flat earthers go
conspiracies
for.
that flat earthers have is that NASA is lying and controlling us through GMO foods, chemtrails, and vaccines. I think one thing that bothers me so much about this is how flat earthers will say that all of NASA's photos are lying, and yet flat earthers have absolutely no photos to prove their own beliefs. I'm not going to get deep into all the other smaller conspiracies or the weird drama that flat Earth has had within itself, because that's really not what today's video is going to be about.
You know what I love about that? How flat earthers can't produce photos that prove their case. It implies that every flat earther on Earth is broke as fuck. Everyone is broke. Every flat earther is broke and cannot afford to get those images that would prove their case. Like, bro.
If you do want to see that, though, I highly recommend the documentary Behind the Curve, but not for the reasons Mark would want you to see it. It has some brilliant moments in there, if you know what I mean. Now, right now, I'll mention just one of them so you can just get a slice of the pie for this. This happens when another prominent flat earther, Patricia Steer, talks about her experience with some fellow flat earthers. She says that she's been called reptilian, she's been told she drinks blood. Some have accused her of being CIA, a shill, or transgender and lying about it too. Which these are all just weird and uncomfortable things to say to someone, but I guess that's flat earth lingo?
I mean, there are
Patricia
reptile people like Zuckerberg,
would that make her less
but
trusted in the community?
that's another matter.
I guess transphobes can be flat earthers too. Quite shocking, I know. Anyway, the point here is that Patricia says she can and has shown people her birth certificate, her driver's license, photos of her of a child, all of it in an attempt to disprove some of the claims. But they come at her with, well, if you're CIA, that can be faked. It becomes a stupid, frustrating battle with these flat earthers, so I guess she knows how we feel to a weird degree. Funny how she doesn't seem willing to connect those dots, though. To think that every single person working for NASA is lying or being deceived, or that math itself has been constructed to create a false narrative is imaginative for sure. It feels futile to argue with some of these people when they've gone that far down the rabbit hole. The documentary mentions the Dunning-Kruger effect, explaining how sometimes it's the least informed people or the people who understand a topic the least that will be the most confident about it. Maybe it's to mask their insecurities, maybe it's a total and complete lack of self-awareness. Simplified, I guess I could just call it ignorance. Flat earthers have even bought a ring laser gyroscope and conducted experiments similar to the old Bedford
yes, I remember this.
1800s. And
We're
they
hearing about
managed
this.
to successfully prove their own theories incorrect with it.
They spent
even
20
their
grand
own
on that camera.
experiments, though, they ignore that because they didn't like the results. If it doesn't support their belief, it's trash. However, it's not all about intelligence either.
Yes, they bought that device, bought it fully. It was their property. They bought it fully, not just rent or anything like that. They bought it. And mysteriously, they detected an 8-degree drift, an 8-degree per hour drift. You know, like the spinning of the Earth rotating like a sphere. Of course, they couldn't explain it. And all the results. 20 grand down the drain.
As one source explains, it would be easy to dismiss flat earthers as simply being misguided due to lack of education. While there are indications that those susceptible to such views have low levels of scientific literacy, Landrum at Texas Tech says that flat earthers aren't necessarily people who don't believe in science. It's not really an education thing, she says. It is really about distrusting authorities and institutions. It seems to be based on both a conspiracy mentality and a deeply held belief that looks like a lot of religiosity, but isn't necessarily specifically tied to a religion. Landrum thinks this conspiracy mentality is linked to science denial and a susceptibility to believing deceptive claims on social media. No longer the domain of a foil hat-wearing fringe, she believes those with a conspiracy mentality have lost the ability to judge when to trust and when to be a skeptic. Their lack of trust in authority includes not just scientists, but scientific bodies such as NASA, all of whom they think are part of a massive conspiracy to prevent the flat Earth truth from being revealed. They view the world through this really dark filter where they assume that all authorities and institutions and corporations are just there to exploit you. Nick Effingham, a philosopher at the University of Birmingham in the UK who has met flat earthers at a London meetup, says that we often don't recognize the extent to which confidence in authority shapes our beliefs. When we try and prove something like the Earth being round because it's a belief that we are so sure of, we underplay the justified role of authority in that, he says. Most people are therefore comfortable accepting the world as a globe, even if they can't immediately recount the scientific evidence. Lee McIntyre at Boston University states, flat earthers seem to have a very low standard of evidence for what they want to believe, but an impossibly high standard of evidence for what they don't want to believe. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend the government is perfect and doesn't make mistakes, or that every single conspiracy theory out there is false. I love investigating. That's what my channel's all about, obviously. But flat earthers are coming at it from such a biased perspective that it's impossible to really take them seriously. Not just because the theory is laughable, but science is supposed to be about finding the truth. It's supposed to be about answering a question with evidence, not gathering up everything that supports your theory and ignoring the mountains of proof that don't. I know I've already said this, but it's so annoying to see clear, irrefutable evidence dismissed as nonsense. This is worse than arguing with Hunbots, and to some extent, there's simply no point in doing so. Seriously, they say they want to travel to Antarctica and do an expedition there, and yet the boats that they'd use, the navigation systems, aren't built around a flat Earth. Here's what The Guardian said. The cruise, organized by the Flat Earth International Conference, promises to be a lovely time. Flat Earthers, who include the rapper B.O.B. and reality TV person Tila Tequila, side note, Jesus fucking Christ,
what are those
will
names?
be able to enjoy restaurants, swimming pools, and perhaps even an artificial surf wave. There's just one problem for those seeking to celebrate the flatness of the Earth. The navigational systems, cruise ships, and other vessels use/rely on the fact that the Earth is not flat, theoretically puncturing the beliefs of the flat Earth crowd. Ships navigate based on the principle that the Earth is round, said Henk Kieher, a former cruise ship captain who sailed all around the globe during a 23-year career. Nautical charts are designed with that in mind, that the Earth is round. Kehir, who now works as a forensic marine expert for Robson Forensic, said the existence of GPS, the Global Positioning System, alone is proof the Earth is a sphere, not a flat disk. GPS relies on 24 main satellites which orbit the Earth to provide positional and navigational information. The FEIC did not respond to requests for more information on the Flat Earth cruise. The organization could potentially try to staff the cruise ship with a crew that does not think the Earth is round, but Kehir said that would be difficult. I have sailed 2 million miles give or take, he said. I have not encountered one sea captain who believes the Earth is flat. All right, so we've gone through the theories.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I have been thinking about. Because flat earthers, they don't want proof, really. Not really. Or they say they want proof, but they want proof that somehow convinces them, which is impossible to do. So the real trick to trying to convince a flat earther that the Earth is not flat is prove the Earth isn't flat without using evidence. And the best way to do that is think about how many people are involved. How many people would have to be involved for this conspiracy to be a conspiracy? There are tens of thousands of people involved in navigating ships around the world. Every single one of them would have to be in on the conspiracy. There are tens of thousands of people involved. Oh, yes, there are tens of thousands of people who are pilots who would have to be in on the conspiracy. Tens of thousands of people involved in space industry as well. All of them would have to be in on the conspiracy. In fact, it's probably a lot more than tens of thousands of people. There's probably like even more than. Let's see. Let me do a quick Google. How many sea captains are there in the world? How many sea captains in the world? Getting a quick result. Ship captains. Okay, I've got one thing. In the US, there are over 11,000. That's just the US. Alright, well, if we add in all the countries together, it's probably closer to 100,000 then, I imagine, in the world. Some number around there. So you would have to add every single one of them. You would have to add in the tens of thousands of pilots in the world. You would have to add in the tens of thousands of people involved in the space industry. And this is just not, and that's not just considering the ones who are captains right now. We also have to include all the captains and individuals that have existed ever since these industries existed. Every single one of them would have to be in on the conspiracy. So we're talking about tens of millions of individuals who would have to be in on the conspiracy that the Earth is round. Explain that one, flat earthers.
Debunked a lot of their main beliefs. I think we've gone through some of their explanations too, which are interesting, I guess. But now what? Why make this video? Well, there's two ways of looking at this situation. One was featured in the Behind the Curve documentary. One scientist explains that he doesn't believe the problem truly comes from flat Earth, but from the scientists that shame them. He says shaming someone into believing something should never be the way to go about things. It only creates more problems, belittles people, and many people have joined Flat Earth because the scientific community, simply put, made them feel stupid. Asking questions should be encouraged. I agree with that mindset, 1000%. And yet, I agree with another mindset seen from sources too, that this is dangerous. It's dangerous because the community seems to encourage willful ignorance and the idea that the government or NASA and basic science is all a lie. There hasn't been an effective way to fight against science denial, as we even saw in the 1800s when Wallace's life was threatened, all because he proved the Earth is a globe. So then, what do we do? If there's no convincing people of basic facts and ignoring flat earthers or arguing with them only cements their beliefs, then is there any hope at all? Lee McIntyre told Newsweek that a better way to respond is to stop talking about proof, certainty,
Well, it's not
and
just
logic,
one
and
government,
start talking more
Wayne.
about
It would have to be
scientific
every
values.
government in history
book, The
that
Scientific
would have to be
Attitude,
in on the
Defending
conspiracy.
Science from Denial, Fraud, and Pseudoscience, I defend the idea that what is most distinctive about science is not its method, but its attitude. The idea that scientists care about evidence and are willing to change their views based on new evidence. This is what truly separates scientists from their deniers and imitators. There can be, to one very small extent, common ground. Flat earthers have called themselves truth seekers, and science is supposed to be all about that, finding the truth and evidence to support a theory. So at least those core values are the same, and I think Lee is on to something when he explains how cognitive bias and the decline of traditional media play into this science denial. He has books on the topic, by the way, and it does seem like something that would interest you. Then, take a look and maybe have a read. It's something I'm probably going to pick up and read in my spare time as well, just to kind of understand it better. But I think his
I hope
mindset
you're
is
joking,
probably
Beast
one of my
Bear,
favorite out of all these
because
sources.
I will not
It's
waste
not
my
mocking,
time
and yet he takes the
on
situation
an actual flat
seriously.
earther on
The
stream.
flat Earth conspiracy is hilarious, certainly. To some degree, it someone like me who most certainly believes the Earth is globe, like I'm a globe head or whatever they call me in the insults. I believe the Earth is a globe, and to me that seems pretty obvious, and there's so many tests and theories to prove that. We even have photographic evidence. So when someone denies something so blatantly obvious that they can see with their own eyes, it's weird to me. And I sometimes laugh almost out of uncomfortableness of how could someone just be this far gone. But as much as I have my uncomfortable or awkward laughs about it, I've got to remember that if we cut out flat earthers or dismiss them all as delusional and everyone refuses to speak to them, well then the only people they've got left to talk to are other flat earthers. And it becomes one giant dangerous echo chamber. And that doesn't serve them well, and it most certainly doesn't serve science either. The documentary even argues that if these people call themselves truth seekers and they have an inquisitive nature, then perhaps many of these flat earthers could have been scientists if only they were more scientifically literate. It's not only a shame, but it's so concerning how far this has gone. It's a weird position to be in, to say the least. I don't have all the answers on how to handle this, and if you disagree with me, that's absolutely
It kind of
fine.
looked like Adam
I
Sandler.
guess I just wanted to share my opinion on the topic and see what you guys thought about it. And let me know what you think about in the comment section down below. I'm curious for your opinions. Although, for any flat earthers who may have potentially made it this far into the video, which I'll be impressed, but hello. If you go into my comment section and you leave me at the bottom of this video nasty comments calling me all sorts of interesting, vile, transphobic names, as you have done in past streams, I will corral those answers and I will read them back live and comment on them. So please don't be one of those people. If you want to have discourse, that's fine. If you want to insult me, take it somewhere else. That doesn't solve any of your concerns, beliefs, or issues that you might have. As for the audio listeners, you guys know there's no comment section, but if you go to the YouTube video and you look in the comment section, good luck to you. But with that being said, that's where I'm going to end today's video, and I hope
We're
you guys
going to
liked
take a
it.
quick
And if you did,
peek
make
at the
sure to hit
comment
that like
section,
button.
aren't we?
If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. And if you want to see even more content from me, then you can click open that description box and you can see my second channel, third channel, all my social media.
The only
all
thing
that good
Flat
stuff.
Earthers fear
It'll be
is
inside
fear
a
itself.
Linktree link. It's the only link that just says like all my socials or whatever. And it's just a nice little easy organized landing page that, I like organization.
Yes, she's doing exactly the right thing. She's turning their insults into content. That's exactly what you ought to do as a content creator. Make content out of the haters. The years 3, but in the end it came around. A good joke. Good joke. Okay, it all seems to be just jokes about flat earthers for the most part. Yes. Oh, there's one here about why put the effort to do the conspiracy? Well, flat earthers always seem to, at least the ones I've encountered, seem to say that it's simply
easy to find, easy to click on.
For control.
It's all there. So thank you guys so much for making
Maybe
it.
you just need to grab.
I love you guys. I will see you in the next one.
Grab something from that one. Beer. You failed me, Winston. You did not remind me about it.
Hey, babe.
Anyways, you failed me, Winston. You did not remind me at 11 p.m. to take my sleep medication like you said you would. But I remembered during the video, and I figured I wasn't going to pause the video to do it. Figured I'd do it after the video. Alright. Anyways, let's see. What's the next video reaction? Let's see that we have here. Let's see. I mean, the first one that you have for me, Winston, is Complacency in Canada, the Agro Center Mall collapse. Okay. By the way, guys, if you want to submit videos, you can do so in the Discord or in the comment section, I guess. But there's a good chance I might miss them if it's in the comment section here on stream, possibly. If you want a surefire way of me eventually reacting to a video that you want to see, do so in the Discord. Because even if I don't get to reacting it today, I'll react to it another time. Alright, this video was again submitted by Winston.
In 2012, after more than 30 years of roof leaks of such magnitude they earned the nickname Algo Falls, the roof parking deck of the Algo Center Mall in Elliott Lake, Ontario, came crashing down on a busy summer afternoon.
No, I went to a high school that was somewhat infamous for one. Yeah, a high school that I briefly went to for one course. I was going to 2 high schools at one time, 1 year, because there was a course that was at a different high schools that I would have to walk over. They were walking distance to each other, so there was sort of like a program of sorts where if you wanted a course from a different high school, you could just walk over. Anyways, the other one that I went to last for one course, it was somewhat infamous for being rather leaky in one section, and it's because half of the school was built over top of what used to be a swamp. And so that section of the school was sinking faster than the rest of the school, causing it to sort of like bend and develop holes in the ceiling and leaking. That's that much aside. That high school was eventually shut down, by the way. But now it's been turned into an elementary school. So there's that. It used to be a high school, it's now an elementary school. Is that how you guys call that in the US or wherever it is you're from? I don't know. Because here in Canada, at least, we have elementary school, high school, then your choice of either college or university. I have no idea what people, when Americans say things like sophomore and things like that, I have no idea what you're talking about. That's not a thing we have. Middle school. Ah, you guys have middle school. We do not have middle school here. We have elementary and we have high school. Elementary, for us, includes everything between JK and SK all the way up to grade 8, and then high school, which is grade 9 to grade 12, and then you choose to go to either college or university depending on what your finances allow, I guess. Or you could just choose to just go straight into the workforce afterwards. That's also, it's up to the student what they want to do after that point. But we do not have middle school here. Middle is 6 to 8 for you? Okay then. Must be a really angsty section of school. Pre-kindergarten. I don't know what pre-kindergarten is, but that's probably... Yeah, that's probably equivalent to our JKs. Junior kindergarten is... Kindergarten here in Canada is divided between JK and SK, which is senior garden, which is junior kindergarten and senior kindergarten. Anyways, back to the video.
I'm fascinated by the stories of engineering and structural failures that involve corruption and avoidable human negligence.
Yeah,
having worked in industries where safety and regulation corner cutting happen frequently, I'm also infuriated by them at the same time. Greed, corruption, apathy, negligence, these hidden bullies don't limit themselves to any particular community, region, nation, or political affiliation. They're human nature and only thrive in lack of awareness, which is why I've teamed up to tell this story with my friend, Fascinating Horror. If this is your type of storytelling, these stories told respectfully, without sensationalism, and you want even more, then look no further. Fascinating Horror tells stories that are even familiar to me, like the Hyatt Regency walkway collapse, or one I've always been interested in, the infamous Action Park in New Jersey, and much more. Commissioned by Algosin Realty Holdings, a division of Algoma Central Railway, named for the Algoma District of Ontario.
Oh, you're talking about Illuminati, which we were just watching, and whatever this channel is called?
Built in 1979 and opened in 1980, featuring many local staples like Woolco, Dominion, and Shoppers Drug Mart. Other big names throughout the mall's life would include Zellers, Son, and Food
Hold up.
Local staples like Woolco, Dominion, and Shoppers Drug Mart.
Dominion? That's what you guys call that? I mean, it's the same logo. I assume it's the same, because it's the same logo, it's called something different here. We call it Rome's Independent. You guys call it Dominion? Interesting. Or actually, no, this... maybe it's dependent on the location? I don't know. I mean, only Dominion I know of is Canada itself. Canada is called the Dominion of Canada, technically speaking. We've never formally renounced the term Dominion from our title. We've stopped using it, but I don't think we've formally denounced us being officially called the Dominion of Canada. We've just simply stopped using that term. Right. Okay, so maybe they changed their name between when they were called Dominion and when they became Rome's Independent. Or just Rome's, for short.
Other big names throughout the mall's life would include Zellers, Son, and Foodland. Much like many malls throughout Ontario, it would quickly become a community hub. The mall featured 1 full level of office space, 2 full levels of retail, and 4 levels dedicated to the Algo Inn, an 80-room hotel with full restaurant, room service, business facilities, and even a lockup area large enough to store guests' recreational vehicles. With a full food court, 44 stores, 185,000 square feet of leasable retail space.
Winston, calling your local grocery store Dommy Mommy is a bit of a stretch. I mean, I get grocery stores dominate everyone's life because we have to get all of our food from them, but still, bruv.
And room for 750 cars between its ground and roof level parking. The Algo Center Mall was touted as the largest structure in Elliott Lake, and by the community as Elliott Lake's
They do got big watermelons, I'll give
the Elliott Lake Library
that.
Inside the Algo Mall came to be known locally as an Ontario treasure. The mall was undoubtedly community-oriented. Algo Center's construction was sparked at the time.
He said, Wayne, if you want to dominate the entire grocery store,
Roughly 10 years into the mall's lifespan,
I'll applaud your
by the
effort
early 90s,
in that.
Uranium reserves had depleted, and the local mines were forced to close. This caused a drastic decline in the mall's revenue stream. Even though the mall still remained at nearly full occupancy, this downturn caused Algoma Central and Algoson Realty to write off the property, essentially washing their hands of it entirely. But by this point, the community had long been anchored by the Algo Center Mall. It was literally the social and economic center of Elliott Lake.
Yeah, it's doming the entire town.
Consumerism-based malls in Canada's neighbor to the south, the U.S., many malls in Canada were, even from their initial construction, intended to be the local community's third place. A home away from home, with all your going-out needs under one climate-controlled roof, with no pressure to shop. A completely free, indoor, community gathering place containing public works like the library, Algoma District Services, public health offices, travel agency, transit terminal, the Algo
Few French
Room,
words I
a
remember
community
from
theater
school.
space for Elliott Lake's amateur youth theater. Combine this with the aforementioned hotel, extensive retail, full food court, and even grocery. Algo Center was the epitome of this third place concept, and the community was well attached.
I mean, the design of the building seems pretty solid. Well, obviously, except for the fact that it was clearly not structural enough for it to be
leaks from the
that it was supposed to be.
Floor, the surface of the rooftop parking deck. Leaks
but if they fix the structural issues, this is actually a pretty nice design for a building.
Algo Falls, these increasingly concerning leaks received increasingly elaborate contraptions to contain them. Totes above the ceiling tiles in the Dollarama, permanent openings in the ceilings, like the one at the food court to be prepared for rainy days. In the library, a network of totes, tarps, and a fan by day. More tarps to cover the rest of the shelves by night. An entire complex system of drip tarps in the Zellers. And in the worst cases, some sections of ceiling had crumbled or broken through due to so much water damage. In hindsight, it was what some ended up calling the slideshow of a doomed mall. And in 2012, just after 2 p.m., on Saturday, June 23rd, a portion of the roof parking deck collapsed. In light of the fact so many inconveniences were simply put up with over the years, inconveniences that would later reveal themselves to have been warning signs, when the collapse happened, the building's occupants, the community of Elliott Lake, the district of Algoma, the province of Ontario, the nation of Canada, were caught completely off guard in so many ways. The collapse took the lives of 2 local women, injured over 20 others, and brought unimaginable shock and grief to the quaint, peaceful community of Elliott Lake.
It's quite unfortunate.
Can a rescue be called off with the possibility of people still trapped alive? and then restarted only after public outrage and interventions by high-ranking politicians.
It's just taken a long time to do anything. This is the time that they should be going in and trying to get them out in case they are still alive.
The team says the decision to initially call off the search yesterday evening was made by provincial government engineers who deemed the structure too unstable.
And they made it perfectly clear to me that it would be to place rescuers at grave risk of injury and possibly worse.
Some experts say the initial on-the-ground...
Then you simply make it a volunteer operation where only people who are aware that they might be in danger are the ones who go, rather than ordering people who might be uncomfortable with that fact. It is as simple as that, asshole. I can guarantee you there would be enough volunteer individuals who voluntarily will put themselves in danger to find people who may need help.
Ground decision to call off the search was the right one to protect lives.
The roof leaked relentlessly for nearly 30 years, and after multiple inspections, the phrase structurally sound was still being used, disturbingly, even up until April 12th, only 2 months prior to the collapse. The collapse took place in a section of the parking deck near the hotel, directly above kiosks and the escalators, adjacent to the food court where debris also rained down, as well as onto several other surrounding stores. The cars, along with the thousands of pounds of the hollow panel structure that gave way, would push their way down to the bottom floor, all happening within mere moments.
I wonder if
the collapse exposing the weakened portions of the parking.
On a side note, I wonder if they managed to rescue those vehicles. I mean, aside from being banged up a bit, that vehicle looked like it could have been easily be repaired. This makes me curious. What was the fate of that car? That board right there.
Deck, it was shockingly evident and relatively easy for investigators to pinpoint the exact cause of the structural failure itself. The use of road salts in many areas throughout Canada is, as you can imagine, quite common. However, while using salts on surface roads is typically no big deal to the structure of the pavement, using them on parking decks, bridges, and other raised structures where it has the potential to leak through via rain and meltwater onto unprotected, non-waterproofed steel or iron framing can have disastrous results.
I didn't actually know about that.
Investigators found the particular joint between two crucial beams had seen so much of this salt-laden water over the years that the only near comparison would be equivalent to structures found in marine saltwater environments. This was a hollow core panel deck where waterproofing is crucial for these reasons, but with no waterproofing membrane having ever been installed in the structure's history, investigators concluded it was highly likely this particular area was subjected to this salt-laden punishment since the very beginning. As this hidden time bomb was reaching its breaking point, a vehicle passing over it normally was all the joint needed to let go entirely. While multi-level parking decks aren't completely uncommon, even overhead parking isn't completely unheard of. Hell, we even had rooftop parking at a mall local to me back in the day. The parking lot was literally the roof of the mall.
I know salt is generally corrosive, I just know that
deck structures across Canada,
even the steel beams would be particularly vulnerable to it. That's something I was not aware of.
Was so widespread that by 1987 the road salt problem was so widespread that the Canadian Standards Association introduced S413, the first ever guidelines for the design and construction of durable parking garages. That standard is now embedded in both the Ontario Building Code and the National Building Code of Canada. So it would likely surprise no one if I said that this specific incident, the Algo Center Mall collapse, takes an even more disturbing turn of negligence, apathy, and intentional ignorance, where some warnings even fell on deaf ears. Structurally sound was the diagnosis mere weeks before the collapse. Though it was rust that defeated the structure of the Algo Mall, the real story behind the collapse is one of human, not material, failure. The Algo Center Mall was eventually demolished. If you'd like to find out more, the lack of concern, the slow path to justice, and even a little more to the rescue efforts of this story, check out the conclusion of this video that can only be told in the way Fascinating Horror tells his stories. Link in the description and pinned comment.
Alright. Let's see, what's the next requested video, ladies and boys? I got new people join the group. Chronic, welcome to the Discord. Hello, wave to you. Yes, the video reaction submission channel is what we are going through right now. EV Ghost Hunting is a scam. That's the next requested video, but also by Winston. Oh, it's also by Illuminati. Alright. How long is it? Ooh, it's a half-hour long.
There are some things in this world.
And we only have 10 minutes left in the stream. Is there one of these videos that's closer to 10 minutes? We'll do this video another time. This one from Mustard. It's 12
In the
minutes.
spring
It's
of
fine.
1969,
We'll go with this
the
one.
U.S. Navy begins testing its newest vessel. But this is no ordinary ship. It doesn't float on top of the water. It can lift itself right out of it. And because of that, it can...
Well, unfortunately, Chronic, there's only 10 minutes, 10-ish minutes left of the stream. I stream until midnight is when I typically stream. I mean, I guess I could go into pretty big overtime. I also want to get to sleep, you know. I'm trying to be a responsible adult who sleeps at regular times, you know.
Do what no other ship can. Move at unheard of speeds, operate in rough seas, and outmaneuver anything else on the water. 60 years ago, the U.S. Navy set out to build ships that could fly.
Alright, fine.
In the 1960s,
Alright,
the U.S. Navy
we'll watch
was
that
the
one
most
after.
capable in the world, ready to project power to any corner of the planet. But military planners were growing concerned about a new threat from the Soviet Union. Soviet nuclear-powered submarines were becoming faster, more capable, and being built in large numbers. The latest generation under development would reach an incredible 41 knots fully submerged, speeds that would allow them to hunt down any ship
so
in the US
almost
fleet,
as submarines
even
and World
outrun
War ships.
torpedoes. They would also dive to record depths, making them extremely difficult to intercept. With their new submarines, the Soviets could shadow American carrier groups anywhere in the world and launch a devastating strike at a moment's notice. Destroyers and frigates might detect the incoming subs using sophisticated sonar, but they'd have no way of closing the distance to engage them. The Navy would need to develop much faster ships, and they'd do it by turning to a technology that was already 50 years old. In 1906, an Italian engineer devised a way to make a boat go a lot faster. Using a series of foils, essentially underwater wings, his boat could lift out of the water as it accelerated, reducing drag, allowing for much higher speeds. It was called a hydrofoil, and a decade later, inventor Alexander Graham Bell improved on the design, building a hydrofoil that set a new all-time
Also the person who invented the telephone.
demonstrating the awesome potential of the technology. In the decades that followed, the hydrofoil was progressively improved, and in the 1950s, commercial hydrofoils were entering into service. But hydrofoils received little attention from the US Navy, because, for the most part, they were only suited for calmer waters, not out on the ocean where the Navy needed them. That's because most hydrofoils worked by skimming close to the surface, a design that made them stable, but easily affected by waves, limiting their use to calmer lakes and waterways. But there was a second way to build a hydrofoil. By positioning the foils entirely underwater, they would be unaffected by the waves above, allowing for smooth operation even in rough seas. The problem was that design wasn't dynamically stable, meaning somehow the foils would have to be continually adjusted to keep the craft level. And it wasn't until the 1960s that the technologies needed to make it work really came into existence. It was around this time that the US Navy realized that ocean-going hydrofoils could be the answer to the Soviet challenge. With their speed and ability to operate in virtually any condition, hydrofoils could chase down Soviet subs, making them ideal for anti-submarine warfare.
Plainview
The Navy's fourth hydrofoil was built to evaluate the potential of large ocean-going hydrofoils.
By 1970, the U.S. Navy had 4 prototype hydrofoils under evaluation, with the 2 largest being the 110-ton USS High Point and the 320-ton Plainview, at the time the world's largest. But on the drawing board were conceptual designs for even larger ships, ranging all the way up to 2,500 tons. Destroyer escort-sized hydrofoils that could even be equipped with helicopters. But before any of that, each of the Navy's prototype ships would need to be put through their paces to evaluate various foil configurations and propulsion systems.
Hydrofoils are expected to operate in the open ocean, where they may be subjected to severe storms.
The ships were also fitted with the latest armament to test their combat potential, including operating guns while moving at high speed, launching torpedoes, and firing anti-ship and anti-aircraft missiles. For the largely traditional Navy, hydrofoils were a radical departure, involving new technologies that blurred the lines between naval and aviation. And nowhere was this more apparent than on Plainview. At hull-borne speeds, Plainview operated much like a conventional ship, powered by a pair of 600 horsepower diesel engines. But when it needed to get up and go, Plainview's crew would hydraulically lower the foils and run up a pair of 14,000 horsepower gas turbines. The 2 jet engines were largely the same ones used on fighter jets like the F-4 Phantom. They transferred power through an intricate transmission system, which drove 2 supercavitating titanium propellers at the end of each foil. With this setup, Plainview could fly at over 50 knots. But the ship was designed to be upgraded with an additional set of jet engines and a supercavitating foil system, which would allow for speeds of up to 90 knots. The ship's foils were connected to an automatic control system, which functioned much like the autopilot on an aircraft. The system continually adjusted angle of attack to maintain level flight, using readings from a sonic height sensor, accelerometer, and a set of gyros, allowing Plainview to maintain high speeds even in 10-foot waves. As the most ambitious of all of the Navy's experimental ships, Plainview would help lay the groundwork for large ocean-going hydrofoils. The Navy issued requirements for Plainview in 1960, with Grumman winning the bid for design in 1961. 2 years later, the project was transferred to Lockheed for construction. And when the ship was launched in the summer of 1965, it was hailed as a technological marvel, an exciting sign of things to come. But beneath the surface, there was already a sense that things weren't going to go according to plan. For starters, a series of strikes at Lockheed shipyards delayed the program. It meant Plainview wouldn't make its first high-speed test run until March of 1968. And even then, it was plagued with deficiencies that should have been sorted out at a much earlier stage. By 1969, the ship was already 3 years behind schedule.
Monday camo is overrated. Why not go for full razzle-dazzle? Make your ship as fancy as fuck.
Accepting the unfinished ship to try and
it's not meant to be. If your ship is not one intended to be stealthy, why?
Each of the Navy's 4 prototype
I treat
ships
it as
were
such,
one-of-a-kind experimental designs. It meant development resources would have to be stretched across all 4, further slowing progress. In May of 1974, the Navy sent Plainview to dry dock to undergo a major 2-year overhaul. Enhancements included a more refined hydraulic system and an advanced digital autopilot. After the overhaul, Plainview was a better ship, more capable out at sea and much more reliable. But many in the Navy had already grown impatient with the ship's protracted development, while others wanted nothing to do with hydrofoils. For all their advantages, hydrofoils also had a few critical drawbacks. Compared to conventional warships, they were weight critical, requiring aluminum hulls, which were neither as strong nor as cost-effective to build. Weight limitations also meant hydrofoils would be less armored and carry less armament. Their complex foils and dual propulsion systems would make them less dependable and more maintenance-heavy, consuming a greater share of the Navy's budget. And when it came to anti-submarine warfare, by the mid-1970s there were more practical alternatives. The Navy had made huge strides in utilizing aircraft
like many
to track
other
and hunt down
things,
submarines. which were
Great
more
technologies
effective
that
and
were wiped out by the
economical to
introduction of
operate. It meant the
helicopters.
case for large ocean-going hydrofoils like Plainview no longer seemed as compelling as it once was.
Pegasus, PHM-1, was the first ship in a new class of hydrofoils.
After more than a decade of research and development, the US Navy did eventually put a hydrofoil into production. At 240 tons, the Pegasus class was significantly smaller than Plainview, and nowhere near the size of the large ocean-going hydrofoils once studied by the Navy. Instead of hunting down submarines, Pegasus ships were designed for coastal patrol on smaller seas like the Baltic. At one point, there were plans to build 44 ships, with German and Italian navies showing interest. But after extensive research and development, only 6 entered service with the US Navy, and they were retired after just 10 years due to high operating costs and lack of a useful mission. In 1978, the Navy's budget for experimental hydrofoil development was suddenly cut from $2.2 million a year to zero, sinking any prospects for further hydrofoil development. In the 1960s, faith in technological progress was at an all-time high, with an endless stream of fantastical concepts that would allow us to travel a lot faster. But one idea that seemed destined to become reality was supersonic travel. Billions were poured into developing technologies for a new generation of airliners that would travel 2 or even 3 times the speed of sound, making a round trip to any corner of the globe possible in less than a day. In my next big project, I'm going to explore why the dream of mass supersonic air travel never became reality, and imagine what the world would have looked like if it did, by creating an alternative universe and an entirely new kind of mustard video. And it's all possible because of Nebula.
Yeah.
Nebula is
Sonic
where you can
booms.
watch more mustard videos, from
big
fantastical
of a
concepts to iconic aircraft. My most
Fortunately.
ambitious video to date covers the story of the legendary B-2 Spirit, a plane engineered to fly into any airspace in the world, no matter how heavily defended. Nebula is full of exclusive content from creators like Real Engineering, Wendover, and Real Life Lore. On Nebula, there's no algorithm that punishes creators for trying something new or taking risks on big-budget projects. And because Nebula is completely ad-free, creators aren't limited to making content that YouTube deems advertiser-friendly. Nebula is still free when you sign up for CuriosityStream, a streaming service featuring thousands of award-winning documentaries. A recent favorite of mine is Dornier, Pioneer of Aviation, a fascinating 2-part documentary that takes a deep dive into the story of one of the most iconic aircraft builders of the 20th century. Get unlimited access to both CuriosityStream and Nebula for just a little over $1 a month by going to curiositystream.com/mustard and use the promo code mustard when you sign up.
Thank you for the hydrating. Alright, now Chronic, you begged very much for us to do that half-hour video, so we will. Alright. Though we're already past the time where I should be shutting the stream down, we'll do this one last video. Alright.
There are some things in this world.
Leading the request there, just so that clear out and make it very easy to see what I still need to watch.
That we just don't have explanations for. Sure, while there's probably a logical reason, other times we'd like to imagine stranger and more horrifying possibilities, like ghosts. Humans have pretty much believed in ghosts since the beginning of time. An article from The Conversation says this belief is from prehistoric times, all the way back to our caveman instincts. It's truly impossible to know what got us thinking about ghosts, but we've been trying to solve the mystery of are they real and can we prove it for eons. In the 19th century, during the peak of spiritualism, seances were all the rage and Ouija boards were increasingly popular. those that
Yeah,
wanted to talk
my
to
mother,
ghosts
she
weren't just on the
was
fringes of society, but many of them were actually
into,
scientists. The Society for Psychical Research, or SPR, was
I don't know if she
established
believed in
and filled with
ghosts, but I
mathematicians,
think she
scholars, and
definitely
authors
believed
among their
in
early members. That's not to say that scholars can't be ghost hunters today, but that's not
what's it
really
called?
the vibe you get from watching those types of shows.
Horoscope
Now,
stuff.
modern ghost hunting
That
has
kind of
taken on a
things.
different turn. A couple people with a
Horoscope
camera typically
stuff.
go into an old, supposedly haunted location and jump at the
Anti-vax,
slightest
all that
sound.
jazz.
Eerie, suspenseful music plays, and it makes the show into a sort of found footage horror movie, and weird noises, cold spots, and bad feelings fill the program. The equipment used, like thermal imaging cameras and EMF readers, seem legit, so hey, who are you as an audience member to argue with the cold hard science, right? What else could possibly be the reason for a figure crossing in front of a thermal camera? It just has to be a ghost. There's no other explanation. Hell, even if you know it's exaggerated, it's still entertaining, like listening to a ghost story around a campfire, except you're seeing it play out on your TV. However, more and more in recent years, these programs are getting called out for being transparently fake. Longtime paranormal investigators have specifically called out the TV programs on ghost hunting, accusing them of being unrealistic, among other things. Amico, the founder of AZ Paranormal Investigations and Research Society, says that a guy claiming he felt something touch him or a door slamming off camera is the easiest stuff to fake because there's no way to prove its validity. Plus, most of the ghost hunting programs out there are based on experiences from cast and crew instead of cold hard evidence. Some don't even feel faked, but just straight up ridiculous. With a crew of British paranormal series that was called Most Haunted, they were trying to capture a vengeful spirit of a pet monkey in an episode. And I guess the pet monkey in this scenario was upset that it was separated from its master, and it's hilariously bad. So one of the hosts, Derek, also tapped into spirits or got possessed during filming. Like, maybe it's just me, but seeing him shout nonsense like "ick ed" at the camera doesn't convince me that ghosts are real. Apparently, one time after chanting "Mary loves Dick" on repeat,
Mary loves Dick,
Richard, or Dick being the spirit, the crew burst out laughing and the raw footage was released, effectively proving that the whole thing was fake.
Should I get a monkey?
The best bit of that was Mary loves Dick.
I don't know. Certainly not as mascot because I already have a mascot. Well, I do, but I don't. In a way, I have Snuffles. Snuffles is my mascot. I've yet to draw Snuffles is the issue, which is why I say I haven't quite made her yet. But the chatbot that you see in the chat, that is Snuffles, and she is my mascot, so to speak. And I can't promise when I'll have her finished being designed, but she will be around, and she is a seal. Snuffles a seal.
And I'm sorry, Derek, I know he passed away a couple years ago, so hey, if nothing else, it was entertaining. But it's the program Ghost Hunters that seemed to start it all, and it triggers this tidal wave of paranormal programming. Salon's written an article stating that real-life ghost hunters consider the TV program Ghost Hunters the bane of their existence. The supposed real ones call themselves parapsychologists and consider themselves to be more like the modern-day SPR. They search for evidence and at one point even received grants for their work to study hauntings. Now, ever since TV ghost hunters have entered the arena, the demand for parapsychologists has plummeted while the accusations of fakery and bad science have skyrocketed. So what has happened to modern-day ghost hunting? Is any element of these TV programs real? And will we ever really find proof that ghosts exist this way? Hello and welcome to Dark Dives. I'm the Illuminati, and today we are, of course, going to be talking about ghost hunting. The tech, the fakery, the truth, and everything in between. Now that we know just a little bit about how ghost hunting is seen today, let's get into how it's done and start discussing the technology. According to The Atlantic, technological failure has helped spark the ghost hunting movement since the 1860s. Back in 1861, William Mumler, a jeweler's engraver, was studying a brand new trade of photography when a shadowy figure appeared on a plate he was developing. Mumler was fully aware it was an error. He hadn't sufficiently scrubbed the plate he was using of its previous exposure. Yet Mumler showed his spiritualist friend anyway and passed it off as real. His friend, as someone who believed in spirits and ghosts, was fascinated and believed him. Pretty soon, spiritualists everywhere called the picture proof of death, and when Mumler realized that he could make a pretty penny off these people, he said he discovered a phenomenon and started charging people for his photos. You all know those
it's a quick
old-timey
book.
sepia
A quick
photos
book is a quick
depicting
book.
ghosts that just have to be real because they were created in the days before Photoshop? Well, someone like Mumler exists, and so yeah, a form of Photoshop did exist back then in its own
Can't
unique
knock a
form.
man for finding
Caitlin
a
from Ask a Mortician has actually posted a whole video about this technique on
a
her
good
channel
way
and
to
how it
make
can be
a good
recreated,
buck.
and it is a fascinating watch. I absolutely recommend it. But let's face it, those kinds of photos wouldn't be enough proof for the modern day person, right? Like they're just too easy to fake and to lie about. Hell, I'm sure there's
Yeah.
probably a filter out there
Yeah,
on
and
Snapchat or
especially
TikTok or
it's not
something
actually that
could make,
harmful.
like, a ghost
Aside from the
appear
fact
too.
that you're
Bit by
probably
bit, the
charging
technology
people
around
to
ghost
take the
hunting has
photo. Other
leveled
than
up the
that, it's
longer
not
it's been
really
around. Back in the
actively
1950s,
harmful.
a woman's
So
ghostly face
good way,
supposedly
I'd say.
appeared in a family's television and wouldn't disappear, even after the TV was turned off. A few years later, a painter and filmmaker claimed he heard the voices of his deceased wife and father
Hold on.
on his cassette recorder. A painter and back in the 1950s, a woman's ghostly face supposedly appeared in a family's television and wouldn't disappear, even after the TV was turned off.
So they had an image burned into the TV frame. That's literally what that was. A 1950s TV would absolutely be able to have an image burned into it by being simply on that image for too long. Rough.
A few years later, a painter and filmmaker claimed he heard the voices of his deceased wife and father on his cassette recorder. Today, there are a few set things ghost hunters seem to use and rely on. A voice recorder to capture EVP or electronic voice phenomena. A camera is obviously used to capture any blurs, faces, or even orbs in the vicinity. An EMF or electromagnetic field detector, as ghosts can apparently give off electromagnetic fields. An infrared thermometer to show temperature changes, and then of course a spirit box that can scan radio frequencies and create white noise that a ghost can use to communicate. But is this science actually proven? Well, let's take a look at these gadgets and see. We'll start with the EVP recordings and spirit boxes because those are along the same vein. You're trying to communicate with a ghost by talking to it. The first issue I have with EVP seems like a pretty obvious one, the language barrier. If a ghost hunter wanders into a remote location in Japan or an ancient castle in Italy, does it make any sense whatsoever for that ghost to respond to them in English? It's flat out ridiculous and unbelievable. I think that English speakers may hear an English response, but that doesn't mean the ghost is actually saying that. Supernatural magazine has explained this away with the universal mind theory, stating that every creature upon death has access to the universal mind or the knowledge of everything that has ever lived. And I mean, if we think that's possible, then why wouldn't these ghosts also have the knowledge of how to prove that they're real? Wouldn't these ghosts, if they really have infinite wisdom and knowledge as the theory goes, be doing far more than wandering their old houses and telling tourists to get out? It kind of seems like a cop-out to me. But let's say these ghosts are talking to us using EVP. How do we know that they're saying anything? Well, the short answer is we don't. Even if we assume that these sounds are not deliberate fraud, which is
this
a pretty
equipment
big
on that
assumption in
particular
itself,
trip he took to
getting
that
rid of
particular
confirmation bias
forest.
is practically impossible. If you show a paranormal researcher a recording of what they believe to be a ghost, of course you're probably going to get something spooky out of it. Hell, even if you show it to a regular John Smith, that can happen too. According to The Conversation, research in mainstream psychology has shown that people will readily perceive words in strings of nonsensical speech sounds. People's expectations about what they're supposed to hear can result in the illusory perception of tones, nature sounds, machine sounds, and even voices when only acoustic white noise, like the sound of a detuned radio, exists. Studies show that the suggestion of a paranormal research topic when listening to ambiguous EVP recordings makes participants substantially more likely to hear voices. Plus, even if people do hear voices, it's pretty rare that anyone can agree on what they're actually saying. If it's captioned, like many of these ghost hunting programs do, then sure, someone can be suggestible to believe that it's saying that. But deciphering it in the first place is an entirely different story. It reminds me of pareidolia, or our instinct to see faces in everyday objects. It's why those windows on the eerie house down the block look like they have eyes, and why your Aunt Marjorie
Now that was a
insists that
great
she's
movie,
seen
Monster
Jesus'
House.
face in a potato chip. Our brains are often looking for faces, and in this case, our ears are listening for voices too. That doesn't mean that no voice whatsoever exists, but calling it proof of a ghost is a bit of a stretch too. Apparently, there's also a rich history of using methods to examine auditory perception, making EVP little more than pseudoscience. It's not that the people who believe they truly hear ghost sounds are idiots, especially as how the BBC puts it. They're just taken in by techniques that have been known to fool us all, and the tricks that EVP can play on our minds. Spirit boxes, which scan radio frequencies to try and capture a ghost's voice, work using similar concepts. And that's in the fact that you'll hear someone talking to you in the mix of all the jumbled voices. But what about the other tools that ghost hunters use? We talked about EVP, now what about EMF? EMF readers, otherwise known as electromagnetic field readers, were designed to locate potentially harmful radiation from power lines or household appliances. You can still use it for this purpose, but these things are, and there's really no other word for it, a mess. They're unshielded, so they can be set off by cell phones, watches, radios, basically anything that gives off EM waves. It's very erratic, and it's very prone to false positives and easily manipulated. The Atlantic refers to one interviewer, Kenny Bibble, who went into great detail on his website in 2014 as to how these things work. As shown on his site, the EMF is just made of a case, a circuit board, battery, and some LED lights. Sometimes a simple design is better. Don't fix what isn't broken, right? Other times, simple can also just mean easy to mess around with. Kenny writes that the EMF reader gained notoriety after the 3rd season of Ghost Hunters, when the hunters said they could communicate with ghosts via LED lights. Quote, in an episode covering an investigation of the Manson murders, Grant Wilson states, the K2 meter measures magnetic fields, and it's been specially calibrated for paranormal investigators.
Specially calibrated.
I have yet to uncover exactly how this device could possibly be specially calibrated for paranormal investigators, but he's on TV, so he must be right, right? The statement is not only false, it's absurd. He also adds that applying just enough pressure on the power switch of the device with only a tiny bit of contact would actually make the LEDs dance crazily or flash twice on a consistent basis. Does this mean that every single ghost hunter is maliciously button mashing to make you believe a lie? I wouldn't even go that far. It's possible that some novice ghost hunters are using it simply because it's a standard in their industry and don't recognize the flaws in the system. I'm sure there are those with malicious intent too, but we can't know for sure. As a whole, it just seems like we really shouldn't be reliant on this technology in the slightest because of how faulty it is. And yet, it's seen as a standard for ghost hunters. EMF readers are arguably more known for being ghost hunter equipment than actual tools at this point. Like seriously, if you go online looking to buy one of these, 2 out of the top 3 best-selling readers are explicitly marked as ghost
And a live ghost hunting industry manages far in the distance.
If you go on Amazon today and just
Sounds
search
like a good
EMF
idea.
reader, almost all of them have ghost hunting or paranormal research meter somewhere in the title. There are other somewhat similar
Like
devices
that.
too, like an REM pod that has its own electromagnetic field and will react when anything comes near it. Skeptics have similar complaints about the REM pod, and our good old friend Kenny Bibble seems to argue that the sheer basis of these devices are flawed. He wrote that he couldn't even find a standard definition for electromagneticity, and when he asked Jonathan Vanover, a doctor of computer science, what that term meant, Vanover told him it looked like, quote, a made-up word. Nothing more than electromagnetic with the word "icity" added in at the end. And fun fact, adding the suffix "icity," which is defined as denoting a quality or condition to an actual term, doesn't actually make you smart or legitimate, but these gadget lovers may not have gotten that memo. Unsurprisingly, when Kenny took the REM pod apart, it once again had really basic features that could be easily manipulated. Hell, when you dig into it, the REM pod looks like a vibration-activated light sphere, which is more accurately a cat toy that's been repurposed for ghost hunters. And I'm sorry, but if you're going to market a device to detect ghosts, then it maybe needs to be impenetrable to the outside world. According to Kenny, even when he was walking around on a different floor, this REM pod would be set off pretty easily and purposefully. So you're going to tell me that a whole camera crew for a television show would not be able to set it off? One former ghost hunter has downright stated that yes, these pods can be set off at will, and even if the data gathered isn't nefarious, it can't possibly be seen as empirical proof either. There's also the matter of these devices setting each other off. A two-way radio can trigger a REM pod, for example. Therefore, it seems pretty possible that ghost hunters with a shit ton of equipment are just tripping their own devices with their other devices. And I'd love to be proven wrong, but unless these reality shows are going to tear open their little ghost boxes and explain how they actually work and how they're protected against interference, I'm more inclined to believe that it's just a reality show misusing devices for entertainment than any proof of a ghost. Another thing that is consistently recognized as proof of ghosts is orbs. Cameras not focusing, strange balls of light being shown in photos, things of that nature.
Now, light
Some
orbs,
sites like
those I
Color
do believe
Psychology
in.
will even tell you what the
Because I've
orbs
seen one.
mean. White is a divine energy, solid black is negative, bright orange is protective, and bright green is something that comes to you if you need healing, and so on and so forth. Now, if you believe in this, that's totally up to you. I'm not going to say that all spiritual beliefs are garbage or anything. However, treating an orb as an indisputable evidence of a ghost or spirit might just be crossing a line from believing in energies to downright misinformation, and the claims surrounding these orbs have been widely exaggerated for years now. So first and foremost, let's get to something that's pretty obvious when you go to any old or supposed haunted place. There's dust, dirt, and insects. And those can all work as viable explanations as to how these supposed orbs show up. And before you say, oh, but I never see that many orbs in my house, well, hopefully your home isn't as dirty as some crumbling castle or a graveyard or abandoned building. It makes sense that those places are going to be full of dust. I actually really appreciate this one ghost tour site called Colonial Ghosts because even they admit that orbs are not real proof and we should stop considering them as such. They mention dust, pollen, insects, foreign material on a camera lens, and even
Now, point of clarification, I'm not sure if light orbs are like ghost related at all. I don't know what they are, but I do believe in them. Because the one that I saw was right in front of me, like literally just 1 foot in front of me, lit up for a couple of seconds, and then it was gone. There was no possible wave. I saw it in 3D space, not being lit on a surface or anything like that. And my cat also saw it. Both me and my cat saw it, and she was freaked out. And she was freaked the fuck out by it. Could be aliens, could be ghosts, could be something else entirely. I have no idea. But I do think, although I do absolutely agree that they're easily faked, I do think something of the nature exists.
Drops of liquid in the air from high humidity.
Thank you for the hydrate routine, by the way.
Plus, when you change the settings of a camera to adapt to the dark, or use a camera with night vision, as most ghost hunting takes place at night, that can also up the chances you'll see orbs as some sort of ghostly image. Even sites like American Hauntings that you'd think would talk all about these orbs being evidence are debunking them. Troy Taylor wrote over a decade ago on the site that the vast majority of orb photos can be blamed on low resolution and low pixel cameras. Both Taylor as well as Colonial Ghosts make it a point to say that these orb photos were rare before the invention of the digital camera. Researchers have even gone to cemeteries with both film and digital cameras, taking photos of the exact same location. And sure enough, it's the latter that's filled with these orbs. Not because the digital cameras are better at capturing the ghosts, but reflections off dust particles with their flash and things of that nature help to bring those things into focus when it's really nothing more than just that. Dust, specks of dirt, whatever, but not ghosts. Yet everyone from the Long Island Medium on TLC to paranormal researchers featured on news outlets to ghost-inclined YouTubers like Graveyard Girl have all implied or questioned if these orbs are paranormal in nature. Proving that a ghost exists is a daunting task, and likely even an impossible one, and I don't think that some sort of cat toy lighting up in different colors or some dust floating across a camera should be seen as evidence. Like, I'm sorry, but unless these ghost hunters can definitively tell me what they captured isn't explained away by a normal occurrence, my brain just isn't going to jump to, oh yeah, that's a ghost right there. Like, I'm sorry, you gotta prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. That's your job
I don't
as a
believe in the
paranormal
existence of hell.
investigator, isn't it?
Weird.
So then why are you using dinky, pathetic, cheap EMF readers that are so easily manipulated? And again, maybe this is just me. Maybe there's more to this equipment that I'm just not getting. But as it stands, I'm pretty unconvinced. Thankfully though, I'm not alone in this either.
I believe in egg universe.
Earlier I said there was a
That's my
difference
religious
between
belief, egg universe.
parapsychologists and ghost hunters. Well, one
Believe
of
in
the
the
former,
egg.
Dr. Andrew Nichols, co-received the only grant ever rewarded to study hauntings. He believes that the TV is also pushing questionable science and gave Salon a laundry list of reasons back in 2010. Here's a quote from that.
And I'm not joking on that
Investigations
regard.
always take
That
place
is my
at night.
belief.
Why
Egg
would
universe.
ghosts only come out then? How can you be a good observer in the dark? Investigators use unproven, scientific seeming instruments like magnetometers, which have ultimately failed to produce replicable results. They suggest that every odd sound, every cold spot, and every orb, which has been explained away as side effects of digital cameras, are signs of ghosts. More generally, as Nichols puts it, they run around like little girls. Expectedly, there have also been accusations of fakery and exaggerations going on within these ghost hunting communities, and it's pretty obvious that some of these hunters are in it for all the wrong reasons. But surely, no one gets harmed by this silly little white lie.
Yeah, now, light orbs
And
that
before we get into that and some of
exist
more of the
only
obvious
in
fakery and the
cameras, or
consequences
something
of
that
those
can only be
actions,
real in
we're gonna
camera?
take a moment to hear from
that
our
I'm not
friendly floof, our
into.
friendly ghost, Casper. Casper's back and he's got new deals to share. This holiday
Can't see it with
season,
your own
when you
eyes, it's
switch to
not
Mint
there.
Mobile and get
So,
any 3-month plan,
comes to
you'll get another
whatever
3
light
months for
orbs are.
free. That's right, free. Mint Mobile knows that getting the best gifts at the best prices is important this holiday season, especially for friendly boys like Casper who have so many people on their list to shop for. But no matter who you're shopping for, Mint Mobile has you covered. Does your cousin want to look old school with a brick phone and play the game Snake all day? No worries, they can bring their own phone to the plan. Are you on a budget but desperate to give your grandma that upgrade she needs to use all those adorable emojis her heart desires? Well, Mint Mobile has you covered there too. Mint Mobile actually offers smartphones for less than $100 too. Maybe you have a relative who doesn't
Very
use data, but
dexterous
texts all the
doggo
time.
using the keyboard.
Well, they've got you covered as well, because with Mint Mobile, you only buy what you need, nothing more and nothing less. Plus, it's just $15 a month for unlimited talk and text, plus you'll have access to the nation's largest 5G network. But if you do happen to need a new device, then we've got even more good news for you. Because for a limited time only, if you purchase a device and select a new plan, you'll get 6 months of free service. And these deals are perfect for the holidays. I used to pay $90 to $120 a month before I switched to Mint Mobile. But if you get Mint Mobile's buy 3
I
get 3
have no
months
idea what's
free
going on
deal,
about
you
Wayne.
could pay just $45 for half a year's service. $45. That means that what you would pay for 2 weeks of service from one of Mint's competitors will get you 6 months of service at Mint Mobile, and that's an absolute no-brainer. But what if you really don't want to face those holiday crowds or waiting in those long lines? Well, you don't have to do that either, because Mint Mobile lets you order and activate their devices from home. So while you're sipping on that delicious hot cocoa topped with whipped cream and marshmallows, you can use an eSIM and switch effortlessly and comfortably. And if you're not super tech savvy, that's also okay. Mint Mobile's fantastic customer service is here to help. Whether you want to buy an incredible gift for your loved ones or even a gift for yourself, this holiday season, do your shopping at mintmobile.com/Casper. You can buy any 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get another 3 months for free. Again, that's mintmobile.com/Casper. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Casper.
Spooder.
From trick strings on ghost hunters to mediums that communicate with ghosts that don't even exist, it's really no surprise that there's been some fakery going on. Even more common and annoying than that, though, there are exaggerations. Between deciding to make this episode and actually researching and writing the script, Danny Gonzalez released a video called "I Tried Ghost Hunting to See If It Was Fake." And honestly, I adore it. The entire time, Danny goes around on one of the most infamous haunted hotels, the Stanley Hotel right here in Colorado, and essentially debunks the experiences of other YouTubers and TV shows. Oh, you heard some weird noises at night? Yeah, Danny spoke with the staff and learned that they literally play pranks on one another and guests on a regular basis. One ghost hunting show said that all the unused old mattresses out back were mattresses that people died on. One of the staff told Danny that because they're a hotel, they're going to obviously have old mattresses laying around. And oh, a bunch of weird spots on a rug. Someone definitely urinated on that carpet because it's a hotel and people are gross. I just appreciate the unbiased and practical nature of his video because you're absolutely not going to find that in a lot of popular ghost hunting circles. Actual, genuine, trying to find the truth style ghost hunting doesn't really exist in a lot of these shows or videos anymore. One of the YouTubers Danny brings up frequently is, and I don't like to bring him up, but Shane Dawson. And while I know Shane has a whole massive laundry list of other controversies from the way he treats young girls to the way he's treated animals, let's just talk about the ghost hunting part, shall we? The episode of him ghost hunting in a haunted ship has over 30 million views, and I'll be frank, it's all the exaggerated tropes about this genre rolled into one episode. A squeaking door and flickering lights elicit ill reactions, spooky music, and gasps of fear. A night vision camera having trouble focusing in a dim room is apparently scary, and Shane himself said he felt something, and that's indisputable. But once you get past introductions, every few minutes someone says, "Did you hear that?" or "Did you feel that?" When you stop and think about it critically, it's kind of laughable. But maybe that's all ghost hunters are trying to be, entertaining. So then what's the actual harm of ghost hunters if they're just trying to make a silly TV show to get you to believe in the paranormal for a few minutes? Well, firstly, there's the damage done to the parapsychologists. Those who do take this seriously and seek out actual scientific evidence now have a massive stigma associated with their field. Ironically, these ghost hunters supposedly trying to prove that ghosts exist have actually made it harder than ever for researchers to do exactly that. It's much more difficult for them to receive grants and gain academic positions. The field is considered a joke, largely, to put it bluntly, and these TV shows have not helped. Harris Friedman, a professor at the University of Florida's psychology department, says that a file drawer problem has been created, which he describes as any negative findings being buried and only positive ones getting published. Apparently, as a doctorate student, he experienced that firsthand and was told that he wouldn't have an academic career if he published his study about children having a better chance of guessing cards when they didn't like each other. I'm not sure what this guessing entailed exactly, but the point remains the same. Ghost hunters that offer some semblance of proof are heard and popularized no matter how invalid or questionable that proof seems to be. Whereas those that are really studying in the field and trying to answer the age-old question of are ghosts real in a scientific way are pushed aside. Phony ghost hunters, in my opinion, are literally damaging our ability to discover ghosts one day if they do exist. Some former ghost hunters have even been brought up on consequences you may not think about, like ignoring mental illnesses. Bray told CT Post that, quote, "We've had a lot of cases where we debunked paranormal activity and attributed it to a psychiatric issue, which was then taken around as a diagnosis by a psychiatrist. If we go in there and say that your paranormal activity is indeed paranormal and you have medical issues, not only could we be held liable for negligence, but we're enabling that mental illness for you, possibly making it worse and not helping." And I'll be honest, I'm not sure I would have considered this if it were not for this article, but he's got a point. It's wholly possible that some of the people calling these shows have serious undiagnosed mental illnesses, but instead of helping anyone, the shows are prioritizing profit. What if these guests go on to hurt themselves or others, or even just continue living in fear of a non-existent ghost because these ghost hunters were more concerned with their spirit boxes than getting to the root of what was actually happening? But there's far more to the downsides of ghost hunting as entertainment. In a way, this industry is a crossroads between the true crime industry and dark tourism, and at times, it shares the same disgusting trait that they all do: exploitation. Now, that's not to say that every ghost hunter is exploitative, but it's not all that hard to find those that are. As an aside, I do have an episode dedicated to dark tourism. I do have one talking about why serial killers are not sexy and to stop romanticizing them, because you wouldn't believe it, but people do. And I will be coming out in the future with an episode about the true crime genre as a whole. One TV program called The Real Ghosts said that their in-house medium revealed new information about Lady Mo, the wife of a provincial deputy governor. The show suggested that her adopted daughter was a mistress of her husband because a medium said it. And since when did the words of a medium constitute as factual evidence? And it not only disrespected Lady Mo and her adopted daughter, but it also infuriated the local people of the area. Other ghost hunters have gone to Jeffrey Dahmer's former home to try and communicate with him. They've gone to plantations, asylums, anywhere where there's been tragedy and death. And this feeds directly into dark tourism and, in my opinion, just profits off of other people's pain. Personally, if I saw ghost hunters go to a cemetery to speak with maybe one of my, dead loved ones and just try and speak to them or claim they did, and then they say something, of course weird because these shows don't actually know these people or anything about the history of them, I don't think I'd like that. What right do you have to use someone else's loss as a vehicle to make money? All in all, as they can be quite similar at times, I think one universal rule applies here. When watching these ghost hunting programs or partaking in dark tourism, it's important to ask yourself if you'd be okay with it if these hunters or tours spoke about you and your loved ones in the exact same manner. If not, then maybe we need to rethink how ghost hunting is actually done. But with all of that being said, that is where I'm going to end today's episode of Dark Dives. I hope you enjoyed this little spooky look at ghost hunters. Let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about it? I'm someone who's truthfully pretty mixed in the middle. I am quite skeptical. I don't want to believe in ghosts. I don't think they're real. But I do think that doing what they're doing, essentially making money off of the dead, is also a little bit creepy and wrong in its own way. But hey, let me know your thoughts. And as always, thank you so much for making it to the end of the episode. I do really appreciate it. Big shout out to everyone over at patreon.com/Illuminati. Love your faces, and I'll see you everybody in the next episode. Bye.
All right. There we go. I mean, tornadoes are cool. I mean, in the sort of horrifying context of life-threatening danger way, but yeah, they're kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, I'm thinking. Let me look at the calendar. So next week, or next Friday, is the 5th. That would be our next. What's the game called now? Cult of the Lamb stream. There's a new update for Cult of the Lamb, so we'll be doing Cult of the Lamb on that day. So then the 12th will be a Marvel stream, which we'll be doing an actual giveaway on. 19th would then be Cult of the Lamb. And then 26th would be our next reaction stream, I'd say. Or at least could be a dedicated reaction stream, maybe. Depending on how things go, of course. Not promising it, but that's at least quote-unquote plan. I do have a channel in the Discord for video reaction submissions. If you, at any time, feel come across a video you want me to do a reaction to, post it there. It'll happen eventually. Oh, we give away which subs on the next Marbles stream. But I think we will be ending things here now. So let's do us a raid, shall we? Let's see. I'm thinking maybe we do Solus. Solus Husk raid. Alright, yeah. Solus Husk. Alright. I'll be live again tomorrow if you're interested. I'll be playing a dead game called Dreadnought. That'll be the plan tomorrow. That's the next time I'm live. Take a look at my schedule, either on my Facebook, Discord, or Twitter. Or in the background screen behind this stream is also my schedule, right? When I'm offline. Let's do /raid. Solus Husk TV. Invalid username. Where's my typo? Oh, right there. Right. Yeah. Typo. Solus Husk TV. Here, raid's been initiated. Alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Let me raid. We are raiding the delicious calcium. Copy that. Alright. There's the raid message. Copy, paste it into the chat, and add to it whichever milk emojis you have. Meantime, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
you